by this housing finance company, which is essentially a mortgages company, and that is under the scanner as well. You can look at the scale of the operations, over 35 premises, 50 companies, 25 people, all are part of the search operation. So that is a significant action by the Enforcement Directorate. They're, of course, acting under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, which is usually the act that is invoked when the ED is suspecting that money has been siphoned out of the system and taken for personal gain. So that's an important development from ED.
Right, Vishwanath, according to the ED, like you mentioned, this illegal diversion of funds was part of a very well-planned scheme in order to siphon off public money by misleading banks, shareholders, investors and financial institutions. But what is the ED saying about the role of Anil Ambani in all of this?
Well, at this point in time, it doesn't seem to be specifying anything about Anil Ambani. Actually, what we do know, however, is that already State Bank of India has reached out to the CBI for a formal complaint about a fraud case in the Reliance Communications company case. That happened last month, and after that, of course, a lot of news has flown in. In fact, the government recently in the Parliament has also responded to a query saying that State Bank of India is reaching out to the Central Bureau of Investigation because they are calling the RCOM company as well as promoter Anil Ambani are fraudulent, and therefore that investigation will continue as well. So on top of the ED investigation, there will be a lot of involvement of the CBI in this case as well, because that is a separate bank loan that was part of the same set of companies, but that's a separate case that is going on from SBI's side.
Right, of course, the investigation revealing that just before the loans were approved, the promoters of Yes Bank received funds in their own group entities, raising serious concerns of bribery, of corruption. But is this the first time that Anil Ambani's companies are having that run-in when it comes to the Enforcement Directorate?
Yeah, so there have been a lot of Enforcement Directorate actions in the past, but also remember, so as I mentioned earlier, the CBI is also looking into the bank fraud case. So this is not a sort of a one-off case as far as the Reliance Group companies of Anil Ambani are concerned. These situations have evolved multiple times across multiple companies, and this is, of course, ongoing and is only going to add to that pressure that already exists.
Focusing on that suspected illegal diversion of loans amounting to 3,000 crore rupees we are talking about, taken from Yes Bank and between 2017 and 2019. If you get us really the details of all of this, the finer details, and if you can really break it down for us, what all did those alleged irregularities really involve?
So 3,000 crore was given to the Anil Ambani Group companies. Essentially, these loans were given out without thorough background check on the companies or looking at the eligibility of the companies. So that's a big red flag as far as ED or any other agency is concerned, actually. But in this specific case, they're pointing out that the promoters of Yes Bank, as I mentioned earlier, Rana Kapoor specifically, did receive some funds in their personal accounts, and therefore this points to some kind of collusion between the promoters of Reliance Anil Ambani Group companies as well as promoters of Yes Bank. So that is one thing. The other thing, credit approval memorandums were backdated to ensure that the loan is kosher. Investments that were proposed without any due diligence or credit analysis, which is in violation of the internal policy criteria for the banks. All of these actions were undertaken, and then later on, very soon after the loans were granted, the money was then diverted to other companies, which again is a big red flag as far as banking is concerned. If money flows from one account to the other in a very quick succession right after the loan has been sanctioned, then that's a big problem, because money at the end is fungible, and money flowing through multiple companies usually means that the money is being siphoned out of the company and being used for reasons other than what was actually envisioned in the original loan document. But here, of course, ED is questioning the basis of the original loan document itself and saying that Yes Bank actually did not do its due diligence at that point in time in 2017 and 2019. They didn't do the thorough due diligence before clearing the loan. So that is an important development, because soon after 2019, by 2020, Yes Bank itself went under severe financial troubles, and then the RBI had to step in and save the bank because of all similar issues that were happening. As I mentioned earlier, Rana Kapoor is already in jail, and that is with respect to the cases that have been happening with Dewan Housing Finance Limited. So there is no surprise then that such deals are being struck between Reliance and Anil Ambani Group companies as well as Yes Bank's former promoter, former CEO of Yes Bank, Rana Kapoor. And these sort of point to a very, very quite a criminal sort of conspiracy that has been going on between these two sets of people. And then that is why the money that has been exchanging hands between Yes Bank and Reliance Anil Ambani Group companies comes under the scanner. That is why the ED is investigating a money laundering aspect in this case.
Right, of course, Vishwanath, this really comes at the heels of SBI declaring Anil Ambani as a fraud. But, when we're talking about raids, they are covering about 35 different locations that are being raided, involving 50 companies, as well as 25 individuals linked to Anil Ambani. But this, the raids are not being conducted when it comes to his personal residence. That has been spared. How come that's happened?
That can happen because if it's not part of the investigation, then that's not a part of the investigation. But the ED is more concerned about money flowing through companies, right? Nowhere has it currently alleged if personal accounts were involved. In case a personal account is involved, then of course Anil Ambani's private properties and residences could come under investigation. But at this stage, all that ED is saying is that money was flowing through multiple companies within the group of companies. And because Anil Ambani was sitting at the controlling seat of these companies, so therefore his sort of involvement is also crucial here. Whether that was in a personal capacity or in the capacity as the chairman of the company, that is a separate investigation altogether. But these search operations are focused on money flowing within these group companies to shell companies and then places that currently seem to be unclear.
Right. Thank you so much for getting us the very latest, and we have breaking news coming in at the moment. Well, this is in regard to the 2006 Mumbai blast case, and it is the Supreme Court putting a stay on the Bombay High Court acquittal order. The Bombay High Court acquitted all the 12 accused in the case, saying there wasn't enough evidence against them. The accused are not required to go back to jail is what now the Supreme Court has gone on to say. So this is breaking news coming in with the Supreme Court there, in fact, staying that Bombay High Court acquittal judgment, but says the accused are not required to go back to prison. And we have Nupur joining us. Nupur, take us through all that's happened in court today.
Well, Divya, in a very big development, the Supreme Court had stayed the Bombay High Court order that had acquitted 12 accused in the 2006 blast case in Mumbai. Now, remember, just yesterday, the top court had made this observation that interim stay is granted only in rarest of rare cases. So there is, in fact, a big development that today the Supreme Court has stayed the Bombay High Court order. It has also clarified that this High Court order will not act as a precedent in any of the MCOCA cases. And this is also, in fact, a very big observation. And thirdly, the Supreme Court noted that out of those 12 accused that were acquitted by the Bombay High Court, some of them were Pakistanis also. The Supreme Court has said that it has read the files and it would like to hear the case at length before giving any decision. For now, it has said that the 12 accused don't have to go back to jail. But the Supreme Court will hear the matter at length, and that too, it also requested the centers of the Maharashtra government's appeal for an urgent listing. So this in fact shows a very big development and a big intervention on the part of Supreme Court, not only staying the High Court order but also agreeing to hear the matter urgently.
Right. Of course, this is in regard to that case, Nupur. Well, 7 bombs that had ripped through the local lines in Mumbai. A total of over 180 citizens lost their lives, and nearly 820 innocent people sustained severe injuries in those blasts that took place, which are also known as the infamous 7/11 Mumbai blast. Take us to the details of that case, and of course, how is it that the High Court, on the grounds that the High Court has tried to, basically let all the 12 accused go, is that there wasn't enough incriminating evidence against those 12 people?
the Bombay High Court, in the judgment that was recently passed by the Bombay High Court, had observed that there was not much evidence to incriminate all the 12 accused. It had, in fact, raised questions on the investigation. The Bombay High Court order had raised several questions on the investigation carried out and had given some observations. But the Maharashtra government, without wasting any day, had just the very next day challenged the High Court order, saying that this will, in fact, impact the MCOCA cases, and the question of law was being impacted, and said that not only in this particular case that 12 accused are being let go of by the High Court, but also for the long term, the judgment could have larger implications. So noting all these submissions by the Maharashtra government, today the Supreme Court has decided to give this stay. And remember, just yesterday, the top court said that such stays are only given in rarest of rare cases.
Right, 7 of those convicts, they were sentenced to life imprisonment. The others had got the death sentence. Of course, this is something, with, really what's been said as far as the High Court is concerned, and where does this case really stand at the moment?
Divya, at the moment, though the High Court order remains stays, but there is still a relief maintained for those 12 accused. One of them has already passed away, so effectively relief is being maintained to the 11 accused, that they don't have to go back to prison. The top court made this observation after it was told that they are already out of the prison following the Bombay High Court order. So for now, the stay is there, and the court will examine in detail. And if the court is convinced, then of course it can set aside the High Court order and implicate whoever the court thinks that the evidence is there, and the court thinks that whoever if court finds that there was some problem with the Bombay High Court order, it can always set aside that and reverse the acquittals in the case.
Right. Thank you so much, Nupur, for getting us all those details. Let's just switch tracks now to the massive row over the Bihar voter list, disruptions from the parliament to Bihar. And of course, the parliament stalled over the Bihar row. And it's Tejasvi Yadav versus the BJP over the revision, with Tejasvi Yadav there mulling over poll boycott. Now, this is after, Tejasvi Yadav has gone on to say that the exercise is futile, and that, holding elections does not make any sense. It's meaningless because it's the EC that is working on the behest of the BJP. The BJP hitting out at Tejasvi Yadav, saying that the leader of opposition has no support, is desperate, and therefore this is nothing but an escape route, when Tejasvi Yadav is mulling over, boycotting the polls. And that is something that the BJP says nobody does, while comparing him to Maoists, and that is something that's been done in the past by the Maoists. And that is the fresh attack by the BJP towards Tejasvi Yadav. Do remember, even yesterday, Nitish Kumar hit out at Lalu Prasad Yadav inside the Bihar Assembly, while not addressing the issue at hand regarding the Bihar voter list revision. Let's get you the reactions coming about.
अब तक इलेक्शन कमिश्नर ने प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस नहीं की है। लगातार सुप्रीम कोर्ट के सलाह के बाद भी प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस नहीं की। कई हमारे सवाल हैं, कई कन्फ्यूजन लोगों में है, जिसको आकर के एड्रेस करना चाहिए था इलेक्शन कमीशन को, वो उन लोगों ने नहीं किया। मजबूरन हम लोगों को अदालत का सहारा लेना पड़ा। जब आप चुनाव ईमानदारी से कराइएगा ही नहीं, जो बीजेपी वोटर लिस्ट देगी आप उसी वोटर लिस्ट पे आप चुनाव कराइएगा, तो चुनाव का क्या मतलब?
Tejasvi Yadav's call for an election boycott is a clear admission of his impending defeat. By suggesting an election boycott, Tejasvi Yadav has effectively admitted that the people of Bihar have completely rejected his baseless campaign against SIR. This idea stems from his political frustration and is a public acknowledgement of his fear of losing. Earlier, he even boycotted the voter revision process, yet over 98% of the voter revision work has now been successfully completed. A strong political blow to both Tejasvi Yadav and all opposition. Their false narrative have crumbled.
Well, we have Somu, my colleague, joining us to get us very later. Somu, of course, the BJP attacking Tejasvi Yadav, saying that, he is really fearful of losing, and which is why he's mulling over boycotting the election, something nobody would really think of doing. But of course, Tejasvi Yadav saying that earlier it was the electors who basically selected the government. It's now the government that's choosing the voters.
बिल्कुल तेजस्वी बार यही सवाल उठा रहे हैं। अभी विधानसभा में भी जब वो बोल रहे थे तो उन्होंने यही सवाल उठाया कि 2003 के बाद से जितने चुनाव हुए तो क्या सारे चुनाव फर्जी थे। उन्होंने ये सवाल भी उठाया कि हमने जब जाति जनगणना कराई थी, जाति सर्वे कराया था, तब इसमें 8 से 9 महीने का वक्त लगा था और भारतीय जनता पार्टी के कई नेता ये कहते थे कि कोई हमारे पास सर्वे के लिए नहीं आया, तो आखिर 1 महीने के अंदर इतने लोगों के पास BLO कैसे पहुंच गए। उन्होंने ये सवाल अभी फिर से उठाया। हालांकि उनके आरोपों का जवाब देते हुए मंत्री विजय चौधरी ने साफ तौर पर यह कहा है कि किसी भी रूप में बिहार का कोई भी वोटर छूटेगा नहीं, लेकिन अब इस पूरे मामले पर राजनीति तेज हो चुकी है। भारतीय जनता पार्टी बार बार ये कह रही है अब कि क्योंकि वोट के हिसाब से तेजस्वी यादव ये चुनाव हारने वाले हैं, इसलिए उन्होंने बॉयकॉट की बात करनी शुरू कर दी है। वहीं पर तेजस्वी यादव बार बार चुनाव आयोग पर इस बात का आरोप लगा रहे हैं कि चुनाव आयोग भारतीय जनता पार्टी के इशारों पर काम कर रही है। इन सब के बीच विधानसभा में चर्चा जारी है। पक्ष विपक्ष के दोनों तरफ के जो सदस्य हैं वो अपनी बात विधानसभा के अंदर रख रहे हैं।
Right, thank you so much for getting us all those details. Switching tracks now to more news, and this is in regard to 4 people who have been arrested. The 4 people who have been arrested are said to have links with Al-Qaeda, and in order to promote their ideology, they had taken to social media platforms. The accused were allegedly in contact with Pakistan-based handlers and were using those accounts in order to incite hate during Operation Sindoor. They used auto-delete apps in order to clean any kind of trace of their communication footprint as well. Well, my colleague Paras is joining us in order to get us more on this. These are arrests that have been made in Ahmedabad. Take us through what all we know about these terrorists.
गुजरात ATS के DYSP हर्ष उपाध्याय को पिछले 10 जून को एक इन्फॉर्मेशन मिली थी कि 5 इंस्टाग्राम अकाउंट्स हैं जो शरीयत या शहादत, फरदीन 3, मुजाहिद 1, मुजाहिदीन 3, सैफुल्ला मुजाहिद 313, ये जो 5 अकाउंट हैं ये अलकायदा जो एक प्रोस्क्राइब टेररिस्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, इसकी विचारधारा का प्रचार प्रसार देश में कर रहे हैं। बहुत लोगों को धार्मिक आधार पे डेमोक्रेसी के विरुद्ध, भारत के विरुद्ध इनकी उश्केरनीजनक जो साहित्य है वो इन पे बारंबार शेयर कर रहे हैं। टोटल 4 आरोपियों को आइडेंटिफाई किया गया, जिसमें फरदीन शेख जो है वो अहमदाबाद का रहने वाला है, मोहम्मद फैक चांदनी चौक दिल्ली का रहने वाला है, जिशान अली नोएडा का रहने वाला है और सैफुल्ला कुरैशी जो है वो मोडासा अरवली का रहने वाला है।
Well, let's just get you more news, and this is in regard to dismissed IAS officer Pooja Khedkar, who has filed an appeal before the State Department for other backward classes welfare against the Nashik Divisional Commissioner's decision to cancel her non-creamy layer certificate. The Nashik Divisional Commissioner had cancelled that certificate of Pooja Khedkar, a former IAS accused of fraudulently clearing her civil services examination by misrepresenting her identity and using forged documents. Radhika joining us to get us the latest. Radhika, take us through Pooja Khedkar. They're challenging that decision that's been taken against her non-creamy layer certificate.
That's right. Trouble mounting for Pooja Khedkar. We know for a fact that she's been dismissed from the IAS and multiple action has been taken against her as a result of she misrepresenting her identity to secure a spot in the IAS. And the latest being her non-creamy layer certificate, OBC non-creamy layer certificate, has now been cancelled by the Nasik department, which is the Nasik Divisional Commissioner. Now, that has been challenged by Pooja Khedkar herself. She has challenged the cancellation of this certificate, and now the Nasik Divisional Commissioner as office have said that she is misrepresented and has defrauded the department in order to show that she belonged to non-creamy layer category of the OBC. In order to get that certificate, the family income should be less than rupees 8 lakh, and she showed her income as rupees 6 lakh. But further probe revealed that she has significant income, she has significant assets as far as the family is concerned, which is more than 40 lakh, including properties, gold, liquid cash, and so on. So therefore, once again, she misrepresented herself to show that she belongs to OBC non-creamy layer certificate in order to secure that spot in the IAS. She had also shown that she's disabled, she had mental issues, so therefore she had provided a fraudulent disability certificate as well. So a series of investigation had been launched as a result of this. She was dismissed from the IAS, she's been debarred from attending exams in the future as well, and there is a criminal case also filed against Pooja Ketkar at this point. So certainly trouble only mounting for her. Multiple agencies are probing her, and we'll have to see what comes out of this particular case, whereby she's challenged the cancellation of non-creamy layer OBC certificate.
Right, thank you so much for getting us all those details, saying that the cancellation has taken place which was under pressure, and that no wrongdoings have been done in this regard. Let's just get you the latest when it comes to elections that are going to be taking place in Tamil Nadu. And just ahead of taking charge, he's all set to make his debut as far as the parliament is concerned. And speaking to NDTV just before that, actor turned politician Kamal Haasan spoke to Sam Daniel, talking about the expectations attached to the politician, and he's really hoping to live up to those.
How does it feel? How excited are you?
I'm honored to begin with, and I know that there is a lot I have to do, and something is expected of me. So I hope I live up to those expectations, and I'll try my best and be honest, earnest, and speak for Tamil Nadu and India.
Right, Kamal Haasan there speaking with Sam Daniel, talking about living up to those expectations and talking about issues related to people in Tamil Nadu. Man has been beaten up in Maharashtra again by M&S workers. Why? Because he wasn't speaking in Marathi. This is the latest as far as the assault that's taking place in the state of Maharashtra. Another one case that has come to light, another video that has surfaced. This is, in connection with what really happened here. Let's find out with all the details that my colleague Paris has for us. Listen in.
This is not the first incident which has took place in Mumbai and Maharashtra since the first thing we had seen from Meera Road when a shopkeeper was beaten by M&S workers for not speaking in Marathi. After that, there were several incidents which took place in a month's time. This incident has took place in Nanded in a local bus stop where there was a public toilet. This whole incident occurred when the situation took place when there was M&S worker who protested with this caretaker of the toilet who was asking for 5 rupees to use the facilities. After that, this whole incident happened when this caretaker was angry and he said he will not speak in Marathi. Then M&S workers started hitting him. This is a very important point in this entire matter, and we still don't know what official steps has been taken in this entire incident. It's continuously going on, and there may be official steps should be taken on this entire matter, and it will be soon be taken in this entire situation which has been happened in Nanded.
Right, thank you so much for getting us those details. Let's just get you the latest when it comes to Prime Minister Modi, who is in the United Kingdom. A very important and crucial visit of Prime Minister Modi there in London, because this really marks the signing of the free trade agreement, negotiations that have been going on over the last 3 years. And this is a turning point when it comes to India and the United Kingdom. Signing that, of course, sealing that deal will be the two Commerce Ministers, Piyush Goyal and his British counterpart. And obviously the two Prime Ministers will be there as well. And there, Prime Minister Modi meeting with the Indian diaspora in the United Kingdom. A very short, a very crucial visit coming up. And this is, of course, going to be impacting India and the UK. How will this be in regard to labour-intensive sectors? That is really the big question here. And how is this going to impact India? What is going to get cheaper and how much is it going to get cheaper? Well, this is a bilateral trade boost as far as, year on year we're seeing, as far as trade is concerned. This is really promising to unlock thousands of jobs, significantly also improve the market access, cheaper products and services for consumers. The average tariffs to drop from 15% to 3%, and a boost to Indian businesses as well, as far as exposed to the United Kingdom is concerned. What does this really mean when it comes to the labour-intensive sectors? My colleague Vishal joining us to break it down for us. Vishal, over to you.
Well, as part of the India-UK FTA, India's medium and small manufacturers have been positioned to make unprecedented scale and impact. The agreement seeks to dismantle historical disadvantages that Indian manufacturers had in the past. So what does that entail? So a powerful edge in labor-intensive sectors like leather and footwear, textiles and clothing, gem and jewelry, furniture and sporting goods. These are some of the sectors that will be impacted in a positive way. India will now be able to outpace rivals like Bangladesh, Cambodia and Pakistan. So that is where Indians will be looking at to have some benefit. There is a focus on protecting the intellectual property rights of Indian manufacturers as well. So the brand of India will stand out. That is one of the main focuses of this deal. This is a high priority. India's leather and footwear exports to the UK could exceed as much as $900 million. That's close to $1 billion. So this will also have one of the biggest focuses. And lastly, India will enter the top 3 suppliers in the UK in textiles, leather and footwear. So that is also one of the big 3 areas where Indians are likely to benefit. Back to you.
Right, Vishal, stay with us for our next story as well. And this is in regard to clashes that have been reported between Thailand and Cambodia, with one person who has died in those clashes. And we're talking about a civilian who has died due to that exchange of fire that has taken place at that disputed border. The fighting between Thai and Cambodian forces, with the residents there taking shelter as tensions continue to flare. Take us through what is it that you're hearing and what is the latest from the ground.
Thailand has been hit by this clash. Thailand and Cambodia both have been engaging in these clashes for the last 2-3 months, and it has escalated to the next level in the last 48 hours when there was increased rate in the firings across the border. Some disputed border areas have been targeted by both the sides, and latest reports indicate that one Thai civilian has been killed in the crossfire. Cambodia, on the other hand, says that it did not deploy landmines due to which the civilian was killed. The landmines had been in position for decades now because Cambodia had been involved in a brutal civil war for decades. So that is what has been going on, and there's a background to this story as well. When this conflict started about a few months ago, rather around the time of May, there was conversation between the Thai PM and an ex-leader of Cambodia, which resulted in pressure on the Thai PM, and she was almost on the verge of resigning. She has been suspended, so there's a political angle to the story as well. But as of now, the clashes are going on. Civilians have been affected. We have visuals on our screen that show that civilians have been running for cover as there have been continuous gunfire. So far, as I mentioned, one person has been killed. No reports on how many troops have been killed on both the sides, but the tensions are escalating. Both the sides have recalled their ambassadors. The borders have been totally sealed. So that's what is the latest, and we'll have the details, more details soon.
Right, thank you so much, Vishal Vivek, for getting us the very latest. And staying with news from Cambodia, there's been a crackdown when it comes to digital arrests. We're talking about 105 Indians who have been arrested. Over 3,000 individuals involved in this online fraud have been arrested in Cambodia, out of which 105 have been Indians. This massive action was taken by the Cambodian government following inputs from India's Ministry of Home Affairs. To know more on this, we have Ghazali, my colleague, joining us as well. Ghazali, raids have been ongoing in Cambodia for the past 15 days, but there have been now over 3,000 arrests made from different countries. We're talking about over 130 different countries, but 105 out of those arrested are Indians.
Yeah, more than 1,000 Chinese nationals, more than 600 Vietnamese, more than 300 Indonesians, 105 Indians, 101 Bangladeshis, Thais, Pakistanis, Koreans, Nepalese and Malaysian citizens have been arrested in this biggest crackdown against these scammers, online scammers. And particularly this operation was launched after the orders of the Cambodian Prime Minister, when Indian agencies alerted them and sort of gave them clues about how this widespread operation, and more than as per the United Nations, more than 1 lakh people are trapped in this entire online scam operations. Not the victims, but those who are doing it at the behest of these gangs, which are based in most of the Southeast Asian countries. External Affairs Ministry has often advised Indian nationals to not go to these countries when it comes to job offers, because most of them offer these fraudulent job, lucrative offers. People are trapped into it. They travel to these countries and then they are forced to carry out these online scamming operations. And this is one of the biggest operation so far. There have been multiple devices, many electronic devices have been seized from those locations from where these operations were running. Police uniforms of India and China have also been recovered from those sites. So the operation is still ongoing. The Indian ambassador in Cambodia was briefed about it yesterday, about the entire outcome of the operations and who all have been arrested. The Indian External Affairs Ministry is also working with their counterparts in Cambodia for the deportation of these Indian nationals also who have been arrested there.
Right. Thank you so much for getting us all those details. Well, with that, we're slipping in a short break. Back with a whole lot more. Stay with us. Massive row over Bihar voter list, disruptions from the parliament to Bihar, and Tejasvi Yadav there hitting out at the BJP for, in fact, this is something that Tejasvi has gone on to say, that he's mulling over poll boycott because he thinks the elections coming up in the state are absolutely meaningless. The BJP is saying Tejasvi Yadav has no chances of winning, which is why he's opting for this escape route. SC versus the opposition on Bihar voter row, and it can't pave a way for fake voters is what CEC is saying. The opposition saying the real target is Bengal elections. Prime Minister Modi, who is in the United Kingdom, is going to be sealing that deal when it comes to FTA, the free trade agreement between the two nations. And this is really going to be a deal that has taken 3 years in the making, but is going to benefit India and the United Kingdom in various ways. The Commerce Minister there will be signing that deal along with his British counterpart. In the RG Kaur case, it's NDTV accessing the CBI report, in which the CBI report in the case has said that there is evidence tampering that is being investigated by the CBI. This is the 5th report that the CBI has submitted in the case so far. That isn't, the investigation hasn't been completed. It's been almost a year since the rape and murder at that college.
Presented by Canara Bank. Together we can.
The big Bharat-Britain deal is done. India and the UK all set for history. The big India-UK trade deal loading. The biggest Modi-Starmer handshake. With me, Radhika Iyer for NDTV World.
बदलाव की इच्छा रखने वाले लोग, उनको ये तय करना है कि वो जनसुराज जैसे नए विकल्प को चुनते हैं कि फिर पिटे पिटाए अपनी पुरानी व्यवस्था में जाना चाहते हैं।
मैं चिराग पासवान पूरी तरीके से बिहार विधानसभा का चुनाव लड़ने के लिए तैयार हूँ और
तेजस्वी जी मुख्यमंत्री बने हैं, हमारी पूरी सपोर्ट है उनको। हम किंग मेकर की भूमिका में रहना चाहते हैं।
कि लोग घर से बाहर नहीं निकल पाते।
प्रधानमंत्री जी को बताना चाहिए कि इनका जो बिहार में जो सरकार है, 50% जो नीतीश जी की मंत्रिमंडल में जो लोग बैठे वो परिवारवादी लोग हैं। वो अपने आप को भी परिवारवादी बोले।
जंगल राज लाने वाले मौका देख रहे हैं, अपने पुराने कारनामे करने का मौका ढूंढ रहे हैं।
Well, in the latest episode of Control All Defense, we are talking about a platform that all of you want to hear about, that's Tejas. The big question, we do know it's a great platform, but is it of use for the Indian Air Force going into the future? How relevant will it remain?
कहना इस दीवार पे इतने इश्तहार चिपके हैं कि कोई दरार नजर नहीं आती। मैं उन लोगों में
Hello and welcome to
to NDTV. I'm Gauri Dwivedi. Over the course of the next 60 minutes, we get you all the big stories, including Prime Minister Modi's 4th visit to the UK and a big setback that's coming for Anil Ambani as well. But first up, we tell you the headlines that we're tracking this hour. Enforcement Directorate raids Anil Ambani in multi-location raids across Delhi and Mumbai. Enforcement Directorate says that bribing rank officials is under the lens. Supreme Court stays the acquittal in the Mumbai train blast case after the Bombay High Court acquitted all 12 accused. Maharashtra government has challenged that verdict in the apex court. Massive row over Bihar electoral voter list. Disruptions from Parliament to Bihar. BJP says Tejasvi is desperate and has no support. Opposition has hit back saying Bihar is just an excuse as the real target is Bengal. Election Commission versus opposition on Bihar voter row escalates. CEC says cannot pave the way for fake voters. Opposition says target is Bengal. Dismissed IAS officer Pooja Ketkar has now challenged the denial of her OBC certificate. She has challenged it despite leading a very lavish lifestyle. BJP's Tamil Nadu push and focus ahead of the assembly elections. Prime Minister Modi set to visit Tamil Nadu this weekend. BJP's big infra push in Tamil Nadu ahead of elections next year. All right, viewers, top story on the show that we are tracking, which is a huge setback that has come in for Anil Ambani, where Enforcement Directorate has raided several residences and locations linked to Anil Ambani. This is a multi-city raid that has taken place as Anil Ambani's financial dealings are in the dock. These are multiple locations across Delhi, Mumbai. In fact, over 30 locations have been raided. Now, Enforcement Directorate viewers, if you're tuning in right now, is probing the Yes Bank case. Yes Bank's founder, Rana Kapoor's alleged and major financial misdealings. The reason why he is in the dock behind bars has also led to the agency decoding what that entire money trail is, and which is where Reliance, Anil Ambani's Reliance companies were given loans without any due diligence. Thousands of crores rupees were given and disbursed, and all of those are now in the dock because the Enforcement Directorate believes it was nothing but a scheme to siphon off public funds, money that was raised from public sector banks, which did not go to the bank, to the companies, but instead was siphoned off. Let's quickly now rope in my colleagues joining me live on this story. Anushka joins us in Delhi and Radhika joins us from Mumbai to talk more about the specifics of the case. And before we get in a big voice to understand where this goes from here, Radhika, to you first. Walk us through the kind of raids that have taken place in the last hour or so, the locations at which this has happened, and what is exactly the ED's allegation here?
That's right. Multiple locations are being raided, 50 plus companies being raided, and 35 plus locations to be precise, and 25 people are being questioned as part of the raids in Anil Ambani companies. This is a big action by the Enforcement Directorate, and it is to do with allegations of money laundering and illegal loan dispersal. The allegation is that Yes Bank dispersed at least about rupees 3,000 crore between 2017 and 2019 to Anil Ambani companies in a fraudulent manner without following due diligence, and this money was diverted, siphoned off, is the allegation. And there was also quid pro quo involved, in which several senior executives of Yes Bank also benefited. They were given bribes as well. So these are the allegations by the Enforcement Directorate, which is why 35 plus locations in both Delhi and Mumbai are being raided at this point. We'll have to see what the outcome of these raids will be, what kind of materials will be seized. But as per the Enforcement Directorate, this seems to be, a well-planned, well-orchestrated fraud involving large-scale diversion of public money through a complex web of shell companies. So how this money was dispersed, how it was illegally dispersed as loans by the Yes Bank to Anil Ambani companies, due diligence was certainly not followed. What kind of violations by the Yes Bank are being found by the Enforcement Directorate, and at the same time how these funds were diverted from some of these companies to shell companies and so on. All these are matters of investigation, which is why these large-scale raids are being conducted. And now, will senior executives of Anil Ambani companies be questioned? Will senior executives of Yes Bank be questioned? Will there be any sort of arrest post this? All that remains to be seen. We'll, of course, wait for the raids to end so that we get details on what kind of criminal action or ED action will be taken post the raids.
All right. Before we viewers tell you in terms of the latest as far as the case is concerned, Anil Ambani has also been grilled on this. We're going to get you details on that as well. But I believe Anushka also has some updates as far as this case is concerned. Go ahead, Anushka.
That's right. What we do understand by now is that ED is conducting raids on 35 locations, 25 people and several business entities linked to Anil Ambani now. The accusation is that the money laundering is to the tune of rupees 3,000 crore, wherein Yes Bank had in fact being involved in quid pro quo had sanctioned rupees 3,000 crore from 2017 to 2019 to several business entities linked to Anil Ambani. Not just that, what we are understanding here is that several of the Yes Bank senior officials and entities were involved in this whole case, where Anil Ambani had in fact taken money from the bank and had, several of the people had also in fact gained kickbacks from this particular case. The whole money was sanctioned without any proper documentation. Not just that, also the evergreening of bank accounts was in fact done. Apart from all of that, several of the public money was being siphoned off, in a very well thought out manner is what the ED is accusing in this whole matter. The CBI had filed 2 FIRs regarding this particular case, and after that, ED has taken over in this complete matter. What we are learning is that right now the whole raid is being conducted to several locations and business entities linked to Anil Ambani in a case regarding the Ambani company, Anil Ambani Group linked to Yes Bank scam that happened from 2017 to 2019. Many of the loans were in fact given in a very unsafe manner. The whole money trail is in fact being linked to shell companies, which is the modus operandi when the money is being siphoned off from public accounts. So this is what the whole case revolves around, and right now the ED is conducting raids on various locations. 35 locations is what we are getting to know, and 25 people are in fact also being questioned in this whole manner. In this whole case, and right now also the raids is being conducted by the ED. What we have to see is that what kind of evidence can ED gather from this whole case? What kind of incriminating documents can be taken out from this particular matter? Because what we do understand by now is that not just the ED and CBI, but inputs were in fact also given by several of the other agencies as well. That includes NHFL and several other several other, in fact, authorities which had given inputs to the ED about this particular money laundering case. Over to you.
All right. Anushka and Radhika giving us all the details as far as this big story is concerned. Thanks much both of you for joining us with the latest there. Let's also now get in an important voice in terms of understanding where this case goes from here. Swapnil Kothari, who's a senior lawyer, joins me on the broadcast. Now, Mr. Kothari, this is a case that is about 3,000 odd crore rupees that was given by Yes Bank to Reliance Group companies against what the agencies feel was dubious lending, because there was no proper due diligence that was done, there wasn't commensurate assets on the balance sheet, could have been several other such reasons. I want to understand from you, sir, in terms of the case from here on, if you could explain in simple terms, where does this go, because this is an ongoing investigation, what happens next, and then we also then talk about Anil Ambani in just a bit, but your first reaction to where does the case go from here?
Well, Gauri, given the fact that Yes Bank was involved and embroiled in this controversy, any big lender to the bank or any big borrower from the bank will always have some answers to give. And especially when I use the word big, it runs into hundreds or thousands of crores, which definitely catches the eye of the investigating authority, which is the Enforcement Directorate here. Under Section 17 of the PMLA, if the Enforcement Directorate has got any doubts that money is being laundered, then it's got all the powers and it's empowered to raid the premises, to break open locks, to investigate every single paper, every single strand of linkage that is there, and to try to come to a conclusion that it has taken place or it has not taken place. Now, unfortunately, in this kind of a scenario, what happens is that the burden of proof lies on the person who's being raided, not on the investigating authority, because these are fiscal offenses. For example, if it is for me to show that I have not evaded income tax, because it's a fiscal offense to evade income tax. Right. It's not like rape or murder or any other offense under the Indian Penal Code or the BNS, where the burden of proof lies on the prosecution. For them to prove.
Breaking news coming in, but I want to take this question very quickly because I want to address important news coming in, which is that Anil Ambani was grilled the last time. He said he doesn't remember those transactions because that's like about 7-8 years back. I want to understand the fate of Anil Ambani in the wake of these raids that have happened. Very quickly, sir.
Gauri, you know, what's going to happen is that memory is always convenient. So I'm sure, given some documents that the investigating authority will show to him, every memory will start coming back and he'll have a lot of answering to give. And if he's not going to be able to answer, then, the next step is obviously taking him into custody. But I believe that wiser counsel shall prevail, and I think all of the people who are there embroiled in it will give appropriate answers.
All right, I have to leave it there. Mr. Kothari, thanks much for giving us that perspective. Viewers, I want to now shift focus to more breaking news coming in on the broadcast. Okay, it seems that there is a Russian plane that has gone missing. It's a passenger plane. We have limited details right now. What we do know so far is about 43 people were on board, including 5 children that lost contact just a few kilometers from the airport near the city of Tanda, and it departed a short while back. This is in the far east region of Russia. Those are the limited details we have right now, that the civilian aircraft in Russia carrying about 43 people, including 5 children, has lost contact with the ATC. Let's get in my colleague Vishal, who's joining us for more on this as well. Vishal, we have limited details, but walk us through what is it that we're picking up so far.
Well, this seems to be this Russian aircraft called Antonov AN-24, which seems to have disappeared with around 50 people on board. This is what the governor of the region has said in the initial reports, as you mentioned. So far, the details are still trickling in. What we have gathered so far is that air traffic controllers lost contact with the plane carrying about 50 people. And this is in a region of Russia's far east, near the Sea of Okhotsk. And a search is underway, the regional governor has said. And local emergency ministers have said that the plane was operated by a Siberia-based airline called Angara, and it dropped off radar screens while approaching the destination of Tanda. So that is what we have so far, and the governor has gone on to say that there were exactly 43 passengers on board. So that is what, how many people, how many children are there, how many elderly are there, that remains to be seen. But we have the numbers, and which is 43, 5 children and 6 crew members. That is the fresh detail coming in. They are also on board, and all necessary forces and means have been deployed to search the plane. This is what the governor has posted on Telegram, but the search is still underway. There's nowhere to be. The aircraft was approaching its destination of Tanda before it disappeared. So it had completed almost 80% of its journey. It was almost about to land, and then that's when it went off the radar. And the authorities are on the lookout, the emergency ministers put the number of people on board somewhere around 40 that we have already reported. And so this aircraft is about 23 meters in length is what we have gathered. The details are still trickling in, and the height is about 8 meters. It's a small aircraft. It was built for purposes ranging from small to medium ranges. So the wingspan is only about 29 meters. The wing area is 74 meters, and the cruise speed is up to 420 kilometers per hour. So when it comes to slightly bigger airlines, the usual airlines, the speed can go up to about 750 to 800 kilometers per hour. In this instance, it's only about 400 kilometers per hour. So that goes to show it's a smaller plane. The details, as I mentioned, are still trickling in, but around 50 people remain missing as we speak.
Indeed. Now, what kind of weather conditions were there? What is the kind of topography of that region, and did that have a role to play in terms of why is it that this aircraft lost contact? Are important details that we need. But viewers tuning in right now, it's important to tell them that the latest that's unfolding, and Vishal continues to be with us as we get those details, which is that air traffic controllers have lost contact with an AN-24 passenger plane that's carrying about 50 people in Russia's Far East region. Search is currently underway, and that's what the update that has come in from the regional governor. And this is an airline that is operated, it's a Siberia-based airline called Angara, as Vishal was telling us, which dropped off the radar screens while approaching its destination in the Tinda region, which is a town in the Amur region bordering China. Turning attention now to another big political story of the day, viewers, where massive row over the Bihar electoral voter list has disrupted Parliament, and it's playing out on your screens as well. Parliament was stalled over Bihar electoral rows, and the Tejaswi versus BJP political slugfest has also intensified over the issue of revision of electoral rules in Bihar, where Tejaswi Yadav has mulled a boycott of these upcoming elections, and BJP has hit back, saying that it's nothing but a desperate attempt by the RJD leader, who doesn't have adequate support ahead of the elections. Let's quickly now listen in to some important sound bites coming in on this story.
अब तक इलेक्शन कमिश्नर ने प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस नहीं की है। लगातार सुप्रीम कोर्ट के सलाह के बाद भी प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस नहीं की। कई हमारे सवाल हैं, कई कन्फ्यूजन लोगों में है, जिसको आकर के एड्रेस करना चाहिए था इलेक्शन कमीशन को, वो उन लोगों ने नहीं किया। मजबूरन हम लोगों को अदालत का सहारा लेना पड़ा। जब आप जो है चुनाव ईमानदारी से कराइएगा ही नहीं, जो बीजेपी वोटर लिस्ट देगी आप उसी वोटर लिस्ट पे आप चुनाव कराइएगा, तो चुनाव का क्या मतलब?
Tejaswi Yadav's call for an election boycott is a clear admission of his impending defeat. By suggesting an election boycott, Tejaswi Yadav has effectively admitted that the people of Bihar have completely rejected his baseless campaign against SIR. This idea stems from his political frustration and is a public acknowledgement of his fear of losing. Earlier, he even boycotted the voter revision process, yet over 98% of the voter revision work has now been successfully completed. A strong political blow to both Tejaswi Yadav and all opposition. Their false narrative have crumbled.
जेडीयू एमपी कौशलेंद्र जी हमारे साथ हैं। सर, लगातार प्रोटेस्ट किया जा रहा है विपक्षी दलों के द्वारा। उनका कहना है कि एक डिस्कशन होना चाहिए, वोट चोरी हो रही है बिहार के अंदर।
देखिए, सरकार लगातार प्रयास कर रही है कि चर्चा कर लीजिए। एक बार नहीं, पीठ से भी कहा गया है और गृह मंत्री भी कह चुके हैं, सदन नेता भी कह चुके हैं कि हम चर्चा के लिए तैयार है, लेकिन हल्ला करने से काम नहीं चलेगा। ये दिखावा है। आप जमीन पर जाएंगे, बिहार में जो वोट कटा है तो साफ है कि जो लोग डेथ कर गए हैं वैसे लोग 10,000 है, जो 2 जगह नाम है, 3 जगह नाम है, वैसे लोगों का नाम कटा है। ऐसा थोड़े है कि जो कह रहे हैं कोई से पूछकर देखिए कि आपका नाम वोटर लिस्ट में नहीं है। ऐसे लोगों को खोजना चाहिए।
से पहले
ऐसे लोग
और फरवरी में जो लिस्ट
तब ना हम जाने बोलने से क्या होगा।
तेजस्वी यादव ने कहा कि बॉयकॉट करना चाहिए इलेक्शंस को। अभी तक नक्सलाइट्स, माइस्ट, ये लोग बॉयकॉट के लिए बोलते थे इलेक्शन। अब एक पॉलिटिकल पार्टी के नेता बोल रहे हैं कि बॉयकॉट करना चाहिए इलेक्शंस को। कहां तक की?
इसका मतलब समझ जाइए, उनका जमीन खिसक गया है। मतदान
दोहराने का काम कर रहे थे।
काफी नाराज दिख रहे हैं।
नीतीश जी के मंत्रालय में कुछ ऐसे ऐसे मंत्री हैं जो बंदर की तरह कूदते रहते हैं ताकि हाईलाइट रहे, और उनका कोई काम तो है नहीं, केवल चेहरा चमकाना। ना 3 में ना 13 में बार बार कूद रहा आदमी। कोई मतलब है क्या? कोई बात है क्या उन लोगों के पास बोलने के लिए?
तो कह रहे हैं कि हम मर्यादित रहते हैं।
भाई पूरा प्रोसेस आप देखिएगा तो 9-10 महीने ही लगे। क्या डेटा एक दिन में रिलीज किया उन्होंने? या हम ही लोग ना भाई करवाएं? और वही बीजेपी का लोग बोलता था ना कि जब जाति आधारित गणना हो रही थी तो हमारे यहाँ आए नहीं लोग, हमारे यहाँ नहीं आए लोग। पूरी प्रक्रिया को ना आप केवल आप जो है जा करके वो नहीं, पूरा प्रोसेस होता है उसका। आप जाते हैं, डेटा लेते हैं, डेटा आप एक साथ उसको अपलोड करते हैं, देखते हैं, जोड़ घटा होता है, उसके बाद पूरा रिलीज किया जाता है ना, पूरे प्रोसेस। हम पूरे प्रोसेस के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, वो पार्ट के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं। तो चालाकी तो वहाँ है, एक पार्ट के बारे में वो बता रहे हैं, लेकिन पूरा प्रोसेस का समय नहीं बता रहे। वो डोर टू डोर की बात कर रहे हैं, लेकिन डोर टू डोर के बाद ख़त्म थोड़ी हो जाता है। वो तो फिर जमा होता है, सबको क्लब किया जाता है, क्लब करने के बाद डेटा बनाया जाता है। तो पूरा प्रोसेस के बारे में नहीं बात कर रहे, वो केवल पार्ट के बारे में बात कर रहे थे। तो ये तो बेवकूफ़, ये तो केवल बेवकूफ़ बनाने की बातें उन्होंने कही है और कुछ नहीं कहा। भाई जब एक बात स्पष्ट है, सब कुछ तय हो ही गया है कि भाई बेईमानी करना ही है, खुलेआम बेईमानी करना है, वोटर लिस्ट से लाखों का नाम काट देना है। और यही लाखों वोटर जो थे मोदी जी को वोट दिया, कई सरकारें चुनी, तब ठीक था। अब ये अचानक से गड़बड़ कहाँ से हो गया, यही तो सवाल पूछा जा रहा है। यानी सरकार के लोग आज खुद ही कह रहे थे कि भाई हम फर्जी चुन करके आए हैं और फिर से फर्जी चुन करके आएंगे। तो जब बेईमानी करना है तो हम लोग इस पे विचार कर सकते हैं बॉयकॉट करने का। चुनाव
दूसरे पार्टियों से भी आप बात कीजिएगा, दूसरे नेताओं से?
हम सब दल के लोगों से बात करेंगे। महागठबंधन चुनाव का क्या मतलब रहेगा जब लोकतंत्र में जनता ही वोट नहीं देगी? चंडीगढ़ जैसा तुम लोग काम करोगे तो क्या मतलब रह जाएगा? तो हम लोग इस पे गंभीर होकर के चुनाव बहिष्कार पर चर्चा हम लोग कर सकते हैं। ये विकल्प हमारे पास खुला है।
28 को सुप्रीम कोर्ट में सुनवाई है
तो होगा, तो उसमें भी हम लोग पक्ष रखेंगे। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने फटकार लगाया, इसके बारे में तो नहीं कहा। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने आधार का सलाह दिया, इसके बारे में सरकार में विजय चौधरी वगैरह क्यों नहीं बोले कुछ? क्योंकि छुपाना है, बचाना है चुनाव आयोग को। मिले हुए लोग हैं ये लोग।
थैंक यू।
और अभी असली खेला तो 1 अगस्त के बाद ये लोग करेंगे। क्या बोलते हो, ARO जो ERO जो होते हैं, ERO जो हैं, असली खेला तो 1 अगस्त के बाद होना है। अभी तो बिना डॉक्यूमेंट के लोग अपने साइन करके अपने भर के अपलोड कर लिया, ठप्पी मार के। अभी 1 अगस्त के बाद असली चुनाव आयोग खेला खेलने जा रही है। हम लोगों की नज़र है और हम लोगों के पास खुला विकल्प है। बेईमानी करना है, लोकतंत्र को तुम खत्म कर रहे हो, जनता का, गरीब का अधिकार छीन रहे हो, उसका अस्तित्व मिटा रहे हो, तो चुनाव का क्या मतलब है? ऐसे एक्सटेंशन दे दीजिए सरकार को।
All right, politics over Bihar's electoral roll continues, and now let's get in my colleague Somu joining us live for more on this. Now, Somu, the war of words on both the sides is intensifying.
बिल्कुल, देखिए तेजस्वी यादव ने साफ तौर पर यह कह दिया है कि अगर इसी तरह की प्रक्रिया चलती रही तो वो चुनाव का बहिष्कार जो है वो करने के बारे में विचार कर सकते हैं। इसे एक तरह से दबाव बनाने की कोशिश के रूप में भी देखा जा रहा है। पहले भी चुनाव आयोग के यहाँ पे भी मुख्य निर्वाचन अधिकारी से भी उन्होंने मुलाकात की थी। दिल्ली में भी जो विपक्षी पूरा खेमा है उनके सदस्यों ने जाकर के मुलाकात की थी चुनाव आयुक्त से, लेकिन उन सब का विपक्षी खेमा बार बार ये कह रहा है कि उनसे कोई नतीजा नहीं निकल पाया। बहरहाल आज फिर से एक बार जब सदन में चर्चा हो रही थी उस दौरान भी तीखी बहस दोनों पक्षों में देखने को मिली। जब उप मुख्यमंत्री सम्राट चौधरी बोल रहे थे उस वक्त भी तेजस्वी यादव ने उठकर के आपत्ति दर्ज की और उसके बाद फिर विपक्ष के जो सदस्य हैं वो वेल तक में आ गए थे, लिहाजा कार्रवाई जो है वो 2 बजे तक के लिए स्थगित करनी पड़ी। SIR को लेकर के बिहार विधानसभा से लेकर के संसद तक में जो पूरा विरोध है विपक्षी खेमे का चल रहा है, लेकिन सबसे बड़ी बात यह है कि तेजस्वी यादव बार बार अब इस बात को मजबूती से रख रहे हैं कि पूरा विपक्षी खेमा चुनाव का बहिष्कार कर सकता है। अब ये देखने वाली बात होगी कि आने वाले दिनों में विपक्ष इसको लेकर क्या रणनीति अपनाता है, क्योंकि लगातार वो ये कह रहे हैं कि अभी तक 50 लाख से अधिक वोटर के नाम काटे जा चुके हैं और इशारा किया जा रहा है तेजस्वी यादव के द्वारा कि 1 तारीख के बाद, क्योंकि ड्राफ्ट रोल 1 तारीख को पब्लिश होगा और उसके बाद जिन लोगों ने अपने डॉक्यूमेंट सबमिट नहीं किए हैं उन्हें एडिशनल डॉक्यूमेंट्स जो है वो सबमिट करने हैं, जिसको ERO वेरीफाई करेंगे कि वाकई वो जो डॉक्यूमेंट वो सबमिट कर रहे हैं उसके आधार पर उनको वोटर माना जाए या न माना जाए। उसमें सबसे बड़ी गड़बड़ी हो सकती है, ऐसा उनको अंदेशा है और इसी को लेकर के वो अपनी चिंता जाहिर कर रहे हैं और ये कह रहे हैं कि वो वोट का, चुनाव का बहिष्कार कर सकते हैं।
धन्यवाद हमसे ये सारी डिटेल्स देने के लिए। सोमू आनंद joining us from Patna for the very latest that's unfolding as far as the Bihar electoral row is concerned. Now shifting focus to the other big story that we are tracking on the show. Well, this is regarding the 2006 Mumbai blast case where the Supreme Court has now stayed the Bombay High Court acquittal order. Bombay High Court, remember, had acquitted the 12 accused in the case and had said there's not enough evidence. The Supreme Court has said that accused not required to go back to jail. Let's quickly get an update as far as this case is concerned, where the matter reached the Supreme Court as far as the Mumbai blast case is concerned, the 2006 Mumbai blast case is concerned. Let's quickly now get in an update on this from Advocate Siddharth Yadav. All right, we go back to the big story that we continue to track, which is the Russian plane. It has crashed, viewers. The missing Russian plane, the latest update that's come in is that it has crashed. There were about 50 people on board. That included 5 children as well. And the details that we have so far is that the Russian plane has crashed. Let's go back to Vishal for more on this. Vishal, give us the details as far as this horrible air tragedy that we are talking about right now that's just been confirmed.
Well, the state media of Russia, TASS, has just posted an update and said that fuselage of the aircraft has been found, and it was found to have been crashed, and it's on fire as we speak. This is what the emergencies ministers has been quoted at saying by the TASS agency, which is a state media, and that is what we have so far. The details are still trickling in. It's still early hours of the crash. As you mentioned, about 50 people were on board this aircraft, and at least 5 children were also there. What is the status of the passengers? That has not been revealed in this report. It just says that the fuselage, which is on fire, has been found. No further details have been shared, but it paints a grim picture as far as air travel is concerned, because we've seen a string of incidents in the last 6 to 7 months. Just in India, only about 250 people died just a month ago in that horrible crash, and just 5 to 6 months ago in Japan, in South Korea, there was a big crash in which about 190 people had been killed. What is the status of these 50 passengers traveling on this plane? That has not been revealed, as I mentioned. We are waiting for the details, but this plane has crashed is what TASS, the Russian state media, has just mentioned.
This year, there have been horrible air tragedies that have taken place. India itself witnessed its worst air tragedy in several decades with the crash of AI-171. And as Vishal is telling us, the latest that's coming is that the AN-24 passenger plane operated by Angara Airlines carrying 46 people, there were children, and then the crew has now crashed. Any other detail that you can share with us, Vishal, right now that is coming in from Russian media or any other sources that you could share with us?
Yes. TASS has just posted another detail. It says that the last check of Angara Airlines, whose plane went missing in the Amur region, was conducted by an organization in this month itself. So this aircraft was in regular maintenance. It's not a case of sabotage or anything else. That remains to be seen. But aircraft was in good health, is what the state media is claiming. The crash site of the AN-24 that went missing in the Amur region has been found. So they have identified, zeroed in on the main crash site. The earlier reports indicated that the fuselage was found. So this latest indicates that the main crash site has also been located. This is what the Ministry of Emergency Situations have been quoted as saying by the state media TASS. And the crash site has been identified, is what is the latest. We have already mentioned that around 50 people were on board the aircraft when the children were also there. The status of the passengers, that is yet to be revealed by the state media, because in Russia, when it comes to flow of information, people mostly rely on state media, so we'll have to wait for what the state media says.
All right. In fact, viewers tuning in right now, Russian plane carrying 50 people has crashed. The fuselage of the plane was found at the crash site. This is the update that has been given by the Ministry of Emergency Situations in Russia. The crash site has been found in the Amur region, which is near the far east of Russia, close to China. Then there were 50 people on board and the rescue operations are currently underway. What could have been the cause right now, Vishal? Any idea that we're getting in terms of possible reasons for this air tragedy to have taken place?
These are still early minutes of the reports coming in, Gauri, but it's hard to speculate at the moment. Anything could have gone wrong. It's a region that is, affected by the war as well, even though it slightly lies away from the main conflict region, but it's still nonetheless Russian region, which is in direct conflict with Ukraine. Is there an angle of sabotage? Was a Ukrainian angle? Is there an Ukrainian angle that will also be explored by the Russian authorities? But so far, the reports only talk about the crash site and how many people were on board the site, on board the aircraft, and also that the fact that this was a small plane. It was only about 23 meters in length, and the top speed of the aircraft could have been not more than 400 to 420 kilometers per hour. When it comes to a usual medium range civilian aircraft, the speed can go up to as much as 800 kilometers per hour. So that also indicates this was a much smaller aircraft, and hence 50 people were on board. The reasons for the aircraft, that is not a matter of speculation. It will take some time before we zero in on the exact cause. But the crash site has been identified. The authorities, the local authorities of the Amur region, the federal authorities, they are all trickling into the region and trying to investigate the matter as we speak.
All right, there are some updates coming in, which is with first and foremost regarding the plane itself, which was manufactured 50 years ago. In 2021, the aircraft's airworthiness certificate was extended until 2036. In terms of the number of passengers, 40 passengers, then 6 crew members, and the remaining as children. That's the update that's there. It was a journey that was from the entire journey is just when it was about to land is when it missed the signals with the ATC. The plane was flying from the Khabarovsk region to the Tinda route, and the Russian Emergencies Ministries has sent rescuers to the site where the plane disappeared from the radar. All right, turning attention now to the other important story that we are tracking today, which is regarding 4 Al-Qaeda terrorists that have been arrested. Gujarat police has busted the terror module, and documents have been seized with regards to Operation Sindoor. The accused incited hate from social media accounts, and a Pakistan-based handler is now under the scanner with regards to these 4 suspected Al-Qaeda operators that have been arrested from Ahmedabad in a major counter-terror operation by Gujarat ATS. The accused were allegedly in contact with Pakistan-based handlers and were using social media accounts to incite hate during Operation Sindoor. They used an auto-delete app to clean any trace of their communication footprint. Let's quickly now listen in to Gujarat ATS DIG Sunil Joshi on this.
गुजरात एटीएस के डीवाईएसपी हर्ष उपाध्याय को पिछले 10 जून को एक इन्फॉर्मेशन मिली थी कि 5 इंस्टाग्राम अकाउंट्स हैं जो शरीयत या शहादत, फरदीन 3, मुजाहिद 1, मुजाहिदीन 3, सैफुल्ला मुजाहिद 313, ये जो 5 अकाउंट हैं, ये अलकायदा जो एक प्रोस्क्राइब टेररिस्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, इसकी विचारधारा का प्रचार प्रसार देश में कर रहे हैं। बहुत लोगों को धार्मिक आधार पे डेमोक्रेसी के विरुद्ध, भारत के विरुद्ध इनकी उश्केरनीजनक जो साहित्य है वो इन पे बारंबार शेयर कर रहे हैं। टोटल 4 आरोपियों को आइडेंटिफाई किया गया, जिसमें फरदीन शेख जो है वो अहमदाबाद का रहने वाला है, मोहम्मद फैक चांदनी चौक दिल्ली का रहने वाला है, जिशान अली नोएडा का रहने वाला है और सैफुल्ला कुरैशी जो है वो मोडासा अरवली का रहने वाला है।
Let's get my colleague Paras Tama for more on this. Paras, any more details that you can share with us in terms of the terror module that Gujarat police has busted?
So this is a very important crackdown by Gujarat ATS in this entire fake note racket which has been busted by Gujarat ATS. A terror module of Al-Qaeda has been busted in this entire situation. There are many important things which has came into light, how this four accused was operating like a sleeper cell in different state of India. Over there, there has been an information that they used the auto delete app which used to clear the footprints of their speaking and their chats. There is major things which has came into light in this entire matter. With that, while Gujarat ATS arrested one of the person from Ahmedabad, over there Gujarat ATS found one sword and some jihadi stuff which was there to this was there to propagate something, and they were sending it to some youths and all. So there are many more layers to this entire story, and that's why this entire case is very much important. We have to wait and see what other things will come out in this entire situation, because Gujarat ATS is interrogating all four accused in this entire matter.
All right, let's leave it there. Thanks much, Paras, for giving us all those updates. Shifting focus now to Pooja Ketkar, where the dismissed IAS officer has now challenged and launched a challenge against the cancellation of her OBC certificate. This despite Pooja living a lavish lifestyle, and she was dismissed from IAS after her fraud came to light. She's filed an appeal before the State Department for the OBC welfare against the Nashik DC's decision to cancel her non-creamy layer certificate. Let's get in Radhika, who has more details on this story, to fill us in. Radhika, now her lavish lifestyle was out in the open, everybody knew. How is it that she can even claim to have this certificate of non-creamy layer?
Absolutely. Trouble for Pooja Ketkar is only increasing now. She has challenged the cancellation of her OBC non-creamy layer certificate. In fact, it was cancelled by the Nashik Divisional Commissioner's office a month ago, as she had misrepresented and given wrong identity as far as her caste and also her disability is concerned, for which there are multiple actions that have been taken against her. There is a criminal case against her. Of course, she's been dismissed by the IAS. She had in fact provided fake identity in order to secure that spot in the IAS. Now, what has happened is that after the cancellation, she's challenged the cancellation. Now, we know for a fact that in order to secure that OBC non-creamy layer certificate, the income should be less than rupees 8 lakh, and she fraudulently showed her income as rupees 6 lakh, and later investigations revealed that she has significant amount of assets. Entire family has assets which involve properties, lands, gold and other liquid money as well, all that amounting to rupees 40 crore. So therefore this certificate was cancelled. She'd been misrepresenting herself for the longest time, and her lavish lifestyle was something that sort of came under scrutiny, after which these irregularities were found and there was action initiated. She's dismissed now from the IAS. Apart from that, criminal action against her and a lot of other probes also by different agencies and departments at this point. We'll really have to see, now that she's challenged the cancellation of this OBC non-creamy layer certificate, how the hearing will go on. She's been pleading innocent for quite some time now.
All right, we leave it there. My colleague Radhika Ramaswamy filling us in with the former IAS probationer who's been accused of cheating and wrongly utilizing OBC and disability quota benefits in the civil service examination. All right, viewers, a quick break. We return on the other side with more news. Stay with us for that.
Hello, Moto.
Moto G96 5G. All eyes on you.
a 36-hour non-stop flight
Yeah, 18
by a
into 2.
small pack of B-2s. A lot of other aircraft were also involved, we know that. But let's talk about the B-2 flight itself. They took off from Missouri. 36 hours later, they landed back without once landing.
Yeah.
They delivered their bombs 18 hours later over Iran and then came back. How was this possible? Because the Department of Defense says at no point of time on this 36-hour journey was there any reason to believe that they were either detected or reacted to.
Well, they weren't detected, because if they were, then they'd be in some serious trouble. It's one of the most unbelievable missions, one of the most historic long-range strike missions. There were 7 B-2s, which by B-2 standards is a fair number of them. There was deception in the very beginning. There was a sense that some of them were flying west across the Pacific. In fact, they weren't. And even if a few planes were positioned in one area, they were not going to be flying the Pacific route.
That was the big distraction.
On social media said, you see the bombers, they're now flying west, so you know what's coming your way. But no. They flew them east across the Atlantic. There were 125 aircraft in total involved. Refuelers were involved at every stage. There were fighter aircraft which linked up 4th generation and 5th generation planes, 5th generation being stealth aircraft. And then after an 18-hour flight one way, right, shortly before they struck their targets, which was primarily Fordo, using a remarkable weapon which we'll talk about called the GBU-57, 30,000-pound weapon.
Monster.
Before that took place, there were several land attack cruise missiles launched from American submarines and possibly destroyers as well. Possibly in the Persian Gulf, submarines, they don't tell us a location that could be as far out.
The American media says it was one submarine called the USS Georgia.
So again, location, I'm not sure if that would be Persian Gulf, could be the Mediterranean, could be the North Indian Ocean as well. But this is what I found interesting. By the time those land attack cruise missiles, Tomahawks, actually struck their targets in Natanz and Esfahan, the American B-2s had already left. So in other words, they launched their missiles first, but by the time the missiles hit, they were the last to hit their impact points. But that's just the nature of the weapons, which are a bit slower than, the aircraft going in the B-2s and dropping their bombs and then getting out.
A question that I'm often asked, Vishnu, is 125 aircraft were accompanying at various points of time. It's not like it was this big swarm of aircraft flying together, which people may be tempted to think when they hear the word 125 aircraft were involved. But tell me something. When the B-2s entered Iranian airspace or sensitive or contested airspace at any point of time, would the B-2s have been alone or would those 5th generation fighters have been with them?
The 5th generation fighters would have been with them, 4th generation fighters.
Enforcement Directorate raids Anil Ambani, multi-location raids across Delhi and Mumbai. Enforcement Directorate says that bribing rank officials under the lens. Supreme Court stays Bombay High Court order acquitting 12 in the Mumbai train blast case of 2006, where more than 180 people were killed in the 7 train blasts. Massive row over Bihar voter list, disruptions from Parliament to Bihar. BJP says Tejasvi Yadav is desperate and has no support ahead of the elections. Opposition hits back, saying Bihar is just an excuse as the real target is Bengal. Chief Election Commissioner versus opposition on the Bihar voter row, where CEC says cannot pave the way for fake voters to continue on electoral rolls. Opposition hits back. The real target for the exercise is the Bengal election next year.
Presented by Canara Bank. Together we can.
All right, viewers, turning attention now to India's dog dilemma, which is in fact a campaign where NDTV has been telling you the stray dog menace that urban India, cities after city, are now facing. The stray dog bite has in fact escalated. We're talking about Rajasthan's Dausa, where it has bitten 11 people, and the stray dog attack has led to 5 people now being critically injured. Now, streets remain unsafe even as stray dogs remain unchecked. As we said, that there have been multiple such cases that are coming to light, and NDTV has been ensuring that these issues, these concerns are put forth. And this stray dog attack in Rajasthan is yet another such instance where 11 people have been bitten by a stray dog, even as no action has been taken by civic bodies and an action plan has been completely missing. Turning attention now to Prime Minister Modi's 4th visit to the UK since he took office in 2014. He's all set to hold talks with his UK counterpart, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, on issues related to trade, health, energy, education and security. Remember, what's important is that the free trade agreement between India and the UK will be signed during the Prime Minister's ongoing visit to the UK. Now, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal is also accompanying the Prime Minister, and the two countries announced the conclusion of the negotiations for the Trade Pact on the 6th of May after 3 years of negotiations. The Trade Pact proposes to remove taxes on the export of labor-intensive products such as leather, footwear and clothing, while making imports of whiskey and cars from Britain cheaper. 99% of Indian products will receive duty-free access to the UK market. Now, viewers, in terms of India's blue economy, how is this FTA set to unleash the potential of India's blue economy? Let me now get in my colleague Sakshi Bajaj, who has all the latest on this.
That's right. A key part of the India-UK Free Trade Agreement is unleashing the power of India's blue economy. In other words, stepping up India's marine products exports to give India's fisher folk an opportunity to get into a market where there is massive untapped export potential. Now, let's spell this out for our viewers. India's marine product exports, valued at over $8 billion in 2022-23, include high demand fish like shrimp and, of course, cuttlefish, tuna and whitefish, with the UK as a key market. The India-UK Free Trade Agreement eliminates tariffs on Indian seafood, enhancing price realization and benefiting coastal fisher folk through increased procurement rates. Now, seafood processing plants employing thousands of women can double capacity utilization with improved UK market access under the Free Trade Agreement. So, coastal states like Kerala, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu will see significant job creation from the Free Trade Agreement export-led opportunities. That really is the big takeaway. Now, despite the UK's $5.4 billion marine import market, India's 2.25% share really highlights a substantial, untapped export potential altogether. The Free Trade Agreement drives growth in value-added seafood exports like shrimp and tuna, with 3.5% rise in 2024-25, encouraging product diversification. So really, that really is the peg, product diversification and the big boost to exports.
All right, turning attention now to more breaking news that's coming in on the broadcast, shifting focus now to a border dispute that's in fact escalated between Thailand and Cambodia. The face-off has seen that the Thai army has said that 1 out of the 6 F-16 jets were fired into Cambodia and destroyed a military target. So there's been an escalation of airstrikes between Thailand and Cambodia. On your screens are the latest visuals that we are getting in terms of the clashes that are currently underway. Let's get in Vishal, my colleague, for more on this to understand the reasons for this and also the casualty number that we're playing out on our screens right now. All right, Vishal.
So the latest reports, some of the reports indicate that as many as 8 people could have been killed in this conflict that has flared up in the last 2 days or so. So this sort of started back in May, when there was a brief period of conflict between both the countries in which one soldier was killed, and that had resulted in a political tension in Thailand, and which in turn had resulted in almost the resignation of the Prime Minister there. Who is the Prime Minister of Thailand is now suspended, so that also is there. But at the same time, this is a long-running conflict between both the countries. It goes back decades, and there are at least 817 kilometers of border that the country share, and that is what is the point of contention. The Cambodian side wants the border to be demarcated in their own way. The Thailand side also claims to have those areas in its rightful possession. So this conflict centers around the border. The tension centers around the border areas, and that is what has been affected. The civilians have been affected, because there are thousands of civilians living on both sides of the border, on the border areas, and we have visuals from those areas where you can see civilians are running for cover, and both the sides have recalled their ambassadors, and also Thailand has closed the entire border with Cambodia. So this conflict is escalating as we speak. The reports are trickling in saying as many as 8 people could have been killed, and the reports specifically talk about Thailand, attacking the Cambodian side with some artillery power, and also the Cambodian side retaliating in the same way, which has resulted in at least 8 people dying on the Thai side. These are initial reports. The state media, the government is yet to officially comment on the death toll. These are local media reports, so we'll have to wait for confirmation. But this suddenly seems to be escalating, and both the sides' military is fully involved in this conflict.
Who are tuning in right now, who are joining us right now, the update that we have is that the border skirmishes between Thailand and Cambodia have escalated. As Vishal was pointing out, they have over 800 kilometers of land border. A large part of this is not clearly demarcated, which is the reason why in the past as well there have been skirmishes and that have escalated this time around. And the flashpoint is something that could be the temple, the Tam Yun Thom temple, that is being cited as one of the possible triggers for the latest cross-border hostilities between these two countries. In terms of the casualty figure, the latest update, Vishal, you're sharing is that it's 4 people, even as both sides are saying they were not the first ones to actually start this latest skirmish, isn't it?
Yeah, that will have to be investigated because as you rightly mentioned, both the sides have claimed the same thing, that it is the other side that is to be blamed. It is the other side that triggered the conflict, because as you mentioned, these skirmishes, these pockets of fights, the battles had been raging for the last few months, since May to be precise, but they had not resulted in this sort of full-blown conflict between both the countries. And that does seem to be the case now, because the fact that they called the ambassadors from both the sides and also civilians have been killed paints a picture of paints a really grim picture.
All right, let's leave it there. But the fact is, when military targets are attacked by either of the two sides, it clearly shows a willingness and an intention to escalate this. And that's what it's looking like right now, viewers. Turning attention now from this developing story and to another important story that's come in, where a racist attack has come to light in a Melbourne temple which has been defaced, which is the Swaminarayan temple, which has been defaced with hate graffiti. Yet another instance of a prominent temple being attacked. This time there's racist graffiti with which it has been attacked. There's been a repeated sense of attacks that are coming to light in terms of targeting Indians across Australia. Only recently we had another racist attack against an Indian, and now it is a temple that has been attacked. Let's get in my colleague Mohammad Ghazali to talk more about this pattern that seems to have been developing in Australia targeting Indians there.
And this is not an isolated incident, not just at the temple, but same racist graffiti was also found on 2 restaurants owned by Asians there. So it's very alarming. The Indian government and the External Affairs Ministry have been apprised of it. They have also contacted their counterparts in Australia as well. And Melbourne also has a huge Indian diaspora. And in the last 2 days, there have been second such attack. And this has been recurring incident. It's not just the 2 attacks which has raised the alarm, but in the past few months also there have been multiple attacks which have been reported from the region. So the Australian government has been told about it, and Indian government expects that strict action would be taken against all those perpetrators who were behind this attack.
Let's leave it there. All right, turning attention now to another man who's been beaten up in Maharashtra by MNS workers for not speaking in Marathi. As he begins shooting the video, the man asks the worker what his name is, and the worker refuses to divulge it. Asking whether the man thinks of himself as someone a big shot, the man tells the worker he will complain and is asked in Hindi to leave. Now, yet another instance of this gundagardi that continues from the MNS thugs, which are completely brazen. On your screen, viewers, are those instances, several instances that NDTV has been telling you where the brazen thuggery of MNS goons continues. And Paras Dama takes you through exactly what happened in yet another such instance of MNS goons slapping a toilet operator over a language row.
This is not the first incident which has took place in Mumbai and Maharashtra. Since the first thing we had seen from Meera Road, when a shopkeeper was beaten by MNS workers for not speaking in Marathi. After that, there were several incidents which took place in a month's time. This incident has took place in Nanded in a local bus stop where there was a public toilet. This whole incident occurred when the situation took place when there was MNS worker who protested with this caretaker of the toilet, who was asking for 5 rupees to use the facilities. After that, this whole incident happened when this caretaker was angry and he said he will not speak in Marathi. Then MNS workers started hitting him. This is a very important point in this entire matter, and we still don't know what official steps has been taken in this entire incident. It's continuously going on, and there may be official steps should be taken on this entire matter, and it will be soon be taken in this entire situation which has been happened in Nanded.
All right, viewers, on that note, a quick break. We return on the other side with more news. Stay with NDTV for all the latest updates and stories that we get you first.
Hello, Moto.
Moto G96 5G. All eyes on you.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold
CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
Some say sport is a matter of life and death.
The truth is, it is far more serious than that. Sport is about ecstasy and agony, about pain and suffering, about joy and much more. Some say there's no one better to tell these stories. So here I am. Join me, Boria Majumdar, on India's #1 news network.
आप एक गुंडे कैसे बिहेव कर रहे हो सर? मेरी आप तो एक गायकवाड is running away from NDTV's questions.
That issue is not before the High Command. It was not discussed so far.
Kolhapuri couples costing $1,300.
The noise we made finally got heard, and it's so nice that somebody took action on it.
Pictures and videos of women that were taken in the Bengaluru metro, now on Church Street and other prominent places in Bengaluru. We managed to arrest both of them.
We are bringing you now, for the very first time, is that the Air India preliminary crash report is out.
This 15-page report into 10 key.
A very good afternoon. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Divya Vadva. We have a whole lot lined up for you, including Prime Minister Modi's visit to the United Kingdom. And today is the day that marks the historic, the landmark FTA deal between India and the United Kingdom. What is this going to mean for India? What's going to get cheaper? What's going to happen in the course of the day of Prime Minister Modi's visit? Of course, he's going to be meeting with King Charles as well, and that's going to all happen in the course of the day before he heads off to Maldives. That's his next visit. And of course, this really comes at a time when the Enforcement Directorate is also turning up its heat when it comes to Anil Ambani. There have been raids that have been conducted in multiple locations. We're talking about 35 different locations between Delhi and Mumbai. We'll get you all the details. First, let's just get you the headlines. The Enforcement Directorate is raiding premises linked to Reliance Group Chairman Anil Ambani in Delhi and Mumbai. We're talking about 35 locations, 50 companies and 25 people who have been questioned. A passenger aircraft carrying over 43 people on board as well as 6 crew members in Russia's Far East region bordering China has crashed. Supreme Court pauses Bombay High Court order acquitting 12 in the Mumbai train blast. This was a blast in which 180 people were killed in 7 different trains that were, in fact, those blasts that took place in 7 different trains. And now a halt to that Bombay High Court order of acquitting the 12 accused. And massive row over Bihar voter list. It's disruption from Parliament to Bihar. It's the leader of opposition, Rahul Gandhi, saying that the Election Commission won't get away with this, while the BJP is hitting back, saying that the opposition is desperate. And that is what Tejasvi Yadav is doing. He's finding an escape route while he's mulling over poll boycott just ahead of the elections in Bihar. And a face-off as far as the Thai-Cambodia border area is concerned. 9 civilians have died in Thailand. The Thailand launches its strikes on Cambodia. There's a major escalation in that border dispute. Prime Minister Modi in UK there to, finalize that FTA, the free trade agreement that's been in the works over the last 3 years. The focus is on that free trade pact, and Modi and Starmer will be signing that historic trade deal in the presence of the Commerce Ministers, Piyush Goyal, as well as his British counterpart. And we have breaking news coming in, and this is breaking news in regard to actor Darshan. So let's just get you the latest when it comes to the Supreme Court will not commit at this particular point in time. It seems that the High Court gave an acquittal order, but the Supreme Court there is in fact saying that we will not commit the same mistake as the High Court has done in this regard. It really seems that the High Court gave an acquittal order. This is as far as the High Court's wrap is concerned, wrapping the High Court
on the bail that was, given to the actor Darshan. Do remember, this is in that case that led to, the murder of a man, actor Darshan, along with his co-star, that were responsible for, allegedly, for the murder of that man in Karnataka. Of course, this is the latest that we are getting for you. This is shocking that the High Court judgment and that the High Court judge could make such a mistake. That is what the Supreme Court is saying in the Darshan case. To know more on this case and what the Supreme Court has really said, it's over to my colleague Nupur joining us from right outside the Supreme Court. Nupur, of course, trying to correct the errors and the mistakes made by the High Court. Is the Supreme Court coming down heavily on the High Court, saying that this was a grave mistake and that bail shouldn't have been given to the actor?
Well, yes, Divya, of course, not only the actor, but all the 7 accused in the case that were granted bail by the High Court. The Supreme Court today made really some very strong observations and said that it seemed that the High Court has granted acquittal in a bail order. And the way it said that it's not the bail that is granted, it's the concern, the reasoning that was granted for the bail is of grave concern to the top court. The top court, in fact, came down heavily on the High Court for especially the reason it gave, saying that grounds of arrest were not furnished. The Supreme Court Judge Justice J.B. Fardiwala said that how can a High Court judge pass such an order, and it made it clear that a sessions judge making such a mistake in granting bail can be acceptable, but it is totally unacceptable coming from a High Court judge that he passes such order granting bail on such grounds. And the court observed that these grounds were in fact frivolous and did not stand in the question of law. The top court has today concluded hearing arguments from all the petitioners in the case and also from the Karnataka government. It has reserved its order, but it has given out a warning, a clear message that while deciding whether the bail should continue or not, it will not commit the same mistake as the High Court has done. And it will, in fact, consider all the grounds, and it asked some very, very grilling questions, serious questions, big questions to the lawyers appearing for actor Darshan and other accused in the case. In fact, for advocate appearing for Pavitra Gowda, she was also confronted with very tough questions from the Supreme Court. Supreme Court went through the call details, through all the evidence that were placed on record. It asked them questions that why were so many calls were made, what was the reason of this. Every little thing was questioned by the Supreme Court today. It also questioned the Karnataka High Court, Karnataka government, that what is the timeline for the trial and how long it can take. So very big remarks being made by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court for now has reserved the order, but has sent out a clear message that it is very unhappy with the High Court order and High Court approach of granting bail to actor Darshan and all the 7 accused for that matter in the Renuka Swamy murder case, saying that it seems that they are being granted acquittal in a bail order by the High Court without trial.
Pavitra, the co-star of actor Darshan, was accused number 1 and Darshan as accused number 2 in that particular case. And of course, the police are claiming that Renuka Swamy's act of sending offensive messages to Pavitra, that was the reason that really led to his murder. Deepak joining us from Bengaluru to get us the very latest. Deepak, of course, the Supreme Court saying that the High Court's made a huge mistake and they're trying to fix that error and that mistake, and that the actor and the others in the case, cannot be granted bail because there is enough evidence against the actor as well as his co-star.
Well, very strong observations, not for the first time, the second time now. Last week as well, the Supreme Court had a few things to say about how the High Court really gave bail to Darshan, and that too in a manner that the Supreme Court felt was unprecedented. Now, this is an actor who's been accused of murder. He's accused number 2. The person who's accused number 1 is said to be a person he was in a relationship with. It is on her behest. He's gone ahead, asked this individual to be kidnapped and then thrashed him, kicked him so brutally that he had multiple injuries, internal bleeding. they had even damaged his privates and eventually dumped him, by a drain. That's how brutal the crime was. And, he initially gets an interim bail on medical grounds. He goes to the hospital in and out, claiming that he wants to have surgery. There were several question marks about whether that even, happened the way, it was narrated. Then there were, question marks about how he was treated like a VIP while he was seated inside the prison, sitting there, as if he was in a coffee shop along with his friends, seated on a chair. These are the, visuals that really shook the conscience of everybody, saying, is this how law is, going to be for the high and mighty, for the powerful or for the popular? And now, the Supreme Court making some critical, strong observations. In all likelihood now, there could be trouble coming his way. If it does it mean he's going back into jail? And there, will he be treated like a common prisoner like everybody else is also another question if that does happen. Again, we're not, of course, preempting what the Supreme Court is going to say, but if it does happen, it is a possibility. And then more importantly, we should also here take note of the fact that he's also given, approvals to travel abroad to shoot for a movie. Is this not a potential risk of a person who is so powerful, who has a lot of wealth? In fact, the police, initially sources did suggest that a lot of money was paid off for people to come and confess to the crime so that Darshan is not even involved. Now, this is the kind of influence that he wields. Now, putting him on bail not only puts the risk of tampering, eyewitnesses, but also the potential risk of him evading any more future arrests or, appearing before the law enforcement agencies. Now, he's given permission to travel abroad to shoot for a movie at a time where the Supreme Court is making some critical observations about, the bail that was granted to him by the Karnataka High Court. So it's definitely going to be interesting how things pan out in the days to come.
Right, in order to know more on this, we also have Veera joining us in order to know more. Veera, take us through the background of this case. Like, Deepak was pointing out that a lot of fingers were being raised as to the leniency that was being given to the actor. He was complaining of having a back issue. He was, in the hospital claiming to be very seriously unwell. He had various grounds on which he was seeking bail. And of course, the Supreme Court had come down heavily saying that we're not convinced as to the order of the High Court. And that was said about a week ago. This case was coming up in the Supreme Court yesterday, but was deferred to today. Take us through what's really happened in court today.
Well, remember, look, just as Deepak was pointing out, this is not the first observation. The second time that the Supreme Court is making a sharp observation on the High Court's order granting Darshan bail. Now, this raises a larger question of those influential people like Darshan, who have been committed who are being tried for heinous crimes. Is bail a right, A? And B, as Deepak was pointing out, it's about traveling abroad, going in for shooting. When the case is going on, the person is virtually free. So I think the Supreme Court is raising very serious concerns over the bail here for Darshan in a case, as Deepak was pointing out, which was gruesome to say the least. Of course, there are graphic details that can be pointed out on it, but it raises a very large question about the order of bail itself in the Darshan case. And I think the fact that the case went out of public attention, and once it went out of public attention, that despite the heinousness and the seriousness of the crime, that the actor is out on bail, virtually being able to live a normal life. Does he have the potential to influence the case, given that he's an influential star? Multiple questions there. Obviously, the order has been reserved right now. One has to see the final order because often courts make strong observations. We'll have to see what the final order is. And all of this becomes substantial only if the final order is one that cancels bail. So if that's the case, then obviously he'll have to head back to jail. But it raises a far more serious question, one that may not be restricted to this case alone.
Right, of course, Veera, this is a case that has, in fact, garnered a lot of attention because of the brutal manner in which Renuka Ramaswamy was murdered. This was because he was sending text to Pavitra, the co-star of actor Darshan, and that is because he was not happy with the actor having a relationship, though he was married, with his co-star, and that is why he was sending her derogatory messages, and that is something that really irked the actor, and that is when this murder was planned. There are others involved in the case as well. Deepak, back to you. Take us through, Darshan, he was in prison. He had spent about 131 days in custody, but many of those days he was out on bail.
Well, now it doesn't anymore count how many days he was on bail or, how many days he was in custody. The question is, has he gotten away because, there was a lapse of judgment? At least the Supreme Court here, in its observations, at least thinks that the High Court should have been more judicious in its approach of giving bail. Now, how will this really be taken by Darshan? Now, considering the fact that these are very strong critical observations, which hint at the fact that there is a strong possibility that his bail could be rejected and he could be going back to prison. At this point in time, will he present himself before the enforcement enforcement agencies? If that arises is the question. Now again, I don't want to jump the gun. We've been saying, these are observations, quite strong ones made by the Supreme Court. The order is still awaited and the order could go either ways. There could be a relief, but if you go by the observations, that seems a far-fetched thought. If there is trouble, he is out there shooting for movies. He is out there traveling wherever he wants because courts have again given permission. Now the simple question, even the Supreme Court asked this or made this observation. If this was any other individual accused of such a heinous crime, would he be allowed to travel freely in the manner that he did? Would he be allowed to be given bail on the grounds that Darshan was given? Would the same observations or the same order be passed in the case of every individual who's been accused of such a heinous murder like Darshan did? Now, these are pertinent questions to note. Up until now, there have been several people who've even been following, been mesmerized, been idol worshipping, Darshan. Now, it is of course going to be a big question mark on all these individuals. Now, while such a crime is committed, until the person is acquitted, do you continue to worship them as their heroes? Because this is a family now, which has been completely devastated by this murder. The person was sent to custody after a lot of thorough investigation, and then if they can get away with bail so easily because of any reason, because they can afford good lawyers, they can pump in the kind of money to get the legal help that they need, or for any other reason, and then after getting bail to also manage to so easily get away and continue their life as if nothing has happened, is that possible? Is that possible for a common man as well in this country is a question. The Supreme Court today, of course, is questioning the very essence through which this bail was given and how easily it was, and probably if this order is in the line of the observations, it could be a precedent in itself.
Right. Also, let's just get in our colleague Nupur from outside the Supreme Court. Of course, the Supreme Court, they're saying this is a perverse exercise of judicial power.
Yes, Divya, today the Supreme Court bench headed by Justice J.B. Pardiwala has essentially made this remark that prima facie it feels that the High Court order granting bail to actor Darshan and the reasons that were cited, main issue with the Supreme Court was with the reasons that were taken on record by the High Court while granting bail to actor Darshan and the 7 accused basically in this case. The Supreme Court said that it is not just a case of murder, but it is a case of proper conspiracy, and High Court granting bail on the grounds that the grounds of arrest was not furnished in this case seems to be a grave mistake which can be acceptable from a Sessions Court judge for once, but not acceptable from a High Court judge. So, on one hand, the Supreme Court has made it very clear that it is not in agreement with the High Court order and the reasons deployed by it in granting bail. But on the other hand, there was another observation by the Supreme Court where it asked the Karnataka government that how long it can take for the trial to conclude. Because remember, getting bail in cases when the court considers that how long the trial can take. If the court is convinced that the trial can go on for long, then it might consider granting bail. But today the Karnataka High Court government told the Karnataka government told the Supreme Court that it is considering to hear the case on day-to-day basis. Then also the Supreme Court asked that would you grant similar kind of hearing and speedy trial to someone else just because he's an actor? But the Karnataka government clarified that only 65 witnesses are remain to be examined and the trial can be concluded in 6 months. If the Supreme Court is convinced with this particular argument by the Karnataka government, then this can go this can actually mean no bail for actor Darshan, because if the trial takes less time, then the Supreme Court will not consider granting him bail. However, the other reasons are still open. The Supreme Court has for now reserved the verdict, but these strong observations don't seem to help the actors and other accused in the case much.
Right, Nupur, let's get in our colleague Veera. And Veera, of course, the Supreme Court, they're saying that the reasoning given by the High Court is extremely troubling, going on to say that they won't make the same mistake, in fact. But take us through, isn't it a watertight case? The grounds on which, granting bail to accused number 2 or accused number 1 in this case is completely unacceptable. That's what the Supreme Court has gone on to say. Take us through, the reason, the motive behind the crime, the evidence in the crime, all, that the police has given. It is, of course, the Karnataka police who actually challenged the bail that's been given to the accused in the case.
The public prosecutors are the ones who have challenged. Let's get the facts right. As Nupur was categorically pointing out, it's not just the granting of bail that the Supreme Court has taken objection to. It's also the dictation of the reasoning given in the order, which the Supreme Court felt was almost like an acquittal in this case, given the kind of public focus that was there in this matter. We put most of the facts out. The case is under trial, and as Nupur points out, the question is also how long will the process take place. Given that this is a high-profile actor, there are serious questions raised over whether allowing somebody like this to be out on bail would influence the case, what kind of treatment was meted out. There's enormous amount of public scrutiny and attention in this case. One has to wait for the final order, Divya. At the moment, these are all just observations. One has to wait for the final order because there are two parts to this. One is the bail itself. The other is the reasoning given for the bail. The public prosecutors and the Karnataka government, of course, challenging the Karnataka High Court order granting bail to the accused in this case. One has to go through the legal nuances of this matter and wait for the order to come out, and that will be extremely important. And Nupur perhaps could update us on when that's expected from the apex court. If the order is one which cancels the bail, then there is no other option than for the star to return to jail. That would be very, very clear. What happens next in the case would all depend on that order from the apex court that we're going to wait for.
And from what we're hearing at the moment, in fact, Deepak, is that Darshan is in Thailand shooting for a film. So business as usual, even though this case is, pretty watertight. He is accused number 2 in the murder, a brutal murder of Renuka Swamy, who was killed. And this was all because of the obscene messages, the derogatory messages that were sent to him by his fan, Renuka Swamy. Take us through the details of how at a time like this, when the Supreme Court, of course, is finding issues, and this is something that happened a week ago, like you mentioned, it's not the first time that the Supreme Court is having an issue with the bail that's been granted to the actor.
Right now he is shooting in Thailand. He's expected to return either tomorrow or day after. This is as per, the earlier order, which the court itself had given permission. First, he had asked for an earlier date. Then he couldn't travel during those dates. And then the dates were amended. Again, he had approached court. And the latest dates, of course, are right now currently underway. And he's expected to come back either tomorrow or day after. Now, at the back of these strong observations by the Supreme Court. And this is where a risk really lies in giving any person who's right now under trial for a murder to allow him to shoot for a movie. There is a possibility that he may think whether is this the right time for me to return, look at evasive tactics. Is that something that we're going to see, or is he going to be a person who's going to say, well, whatever consequences there are, I am going to face them head on. If I am not guilty of it, I am going to come out clean. But is he going to face the law is the question that comes up. But why has really really the situation come up where, right now there is no control of the Indian police, or rather the Karnataka police now anymore, of where Darshan is, or whether if there is now, say, the bail is rejected by the Supreme Court, they'll really have to wait for Darshan himself to comply, for himself to come and come to India and then present himself before the police. The police have very limited options at this point in time to go and get him if this situation arises again. These are all things that I am trying to give perspective based on what happens in the Supreme Court. As of now, these are just critical observations. There's no order as of now. There is no rejection of bail, or there is also the Supreme Court not saying, well, it was right that the bail was granted by the Karnataka High Court. So it's a very interesting situation right now for the Karnataka police as well. Could they have done better to oppose his request for traveling abroad at a time when they had challenged this matter of his bail being granted in the Supreme Court as well? Was it the right time for the courts as well to grant him permission to travel abroad for whatever reasons maybe? Because when we saw those pictures, we saw some of his family members as well traveling with him. These are questions that will definitely come up, even as now the orders for this particular challenge of bail have now been reserved by the Supreme Court of India.
Trouble ahead for the Kannada actor, but who seems to be going about his business as usual, out on bail, shooting for a film, and that too in Thailand. And how do, somebody who has been accused in a case, how does he get his passport? How does he get to travel abroad? All questions being asked. And of course, the Supreme Court, they're coming down heavy on the High Court for the mistake that it's made in this particular regard. Thank you so much, Deepak, Veera and Nupur, for getting us the very latest. Moving on now to more news coming in. A tragic update is coming in from Russia. This is an Angara Airlines flight that was carrying 43 people, including 5 children, has crashed in the Amur region. The Amur region is in the far east of Russia, bordering China. The aircraft, which had gone off the radar while en route to Tinda, was found by emergency teams hours later. The Russian ministry has now confirmed the crash. It had also 6 crew members on board. The aircraft, operated by a Siberia-based airline, had lost communication while it was approaching its destination in the Amur region adjacent to China. This is literally at the border between Russia and China, and this was the far eastern part of Russia. The area is Amur, and this plane was to land in Tinda, and it had exactly 43 passengers on board, 5 of whom are said to be children. 6 crew members were also on that flight. Its destination was just a few kilometers away before it lost communication. Vishal, my colleague, getting us the details of this. Vishal, another crash coming to light soon on the heels of that Air India crash. Take us to the details of 43 people. Where was this plane originating from? We do know it was supposed to land. It was just kilometers ahead just before it was about to make its landing when it went missing and communication was lost. Take us through the details.
Well, some reports indicate that at least 49 people could have been on board, and 5 of them are children, and 6 crew members are also there. The latest from the state media, their TASS has specified that the authorities in Russian, in the local authorities as well as federal authorities, they are all exploring the angle of crew error. So that is one of the major angles being explored as we speak. These are still early hours of the crash, so any amount of speculation will not be fair. But the authorities themselves have said that they are exploring the angle of the crew error. So there were 6 crew on board, and 43 passengers were also there. This was, as we've been reporting throughout, a small and medium range aircraft which could reach up to speeds of only about 400 kilometers per hour. When it comes to a normal aircraft, normal civilian aircraft, the speeds go as much as 700 to 800 kilometers per hour. So that goes to show this was a smaller plane, and hence there were lesser number of people. But the reports, they don't seem to paint a very good picture, and some reports even indicate that there are no survivors. There's no confirmation on that. How many people have survived? How many people are grievously injured? All of that remains to be divulged. The authorities are mum on that. The details do indicate that the crew itself will be probed, because the error might have come from the crew side, because the aircraft seems to have crashed into a hillside, deep into a jungle on the hillside. So the cause of the crash will have to be investigated.
Right. One of the reasons for the crash is likely to be an error, like you were saying, by the crew member during landing in poor visibility. And as you can see visuals on your screen of how dense, this forest area was where the crash that took place just kilometers before it was meant to land at its destination, which was Tinda. Here you can see this deeply forested area. These are visuals just after that crash that took place. The latest visuals that we have for you playing out on our screens of the crash, which had 43 passengers on board, including 5 children. Plus, in addition to that, 6 crew members were on board that flight as well. Taking the number of people that have said to have lost their lives is what is being presumed at this point in time. That there doesn't seem to be any survivor because, this is, of course, Mi-8 helicopter that operated in the area, found this plane, crashed very close to its destination. Vishal, take us through the details. I mean, we're looking at this, the visuals, the crash site. Poor visibility perhaps led to the crash is what is being presumed at this particular point in time. Very, very initial. Hard to know what really went down and how did that plane really crash.
Yes. So as we've been reporting, the latest details indicate that there could have been a crew error that is being investigated. And also at the same time, there's another angle of malfunction. So these two angles at the moment are being discussed by the local authorities as well as the federal authorities, and also the angle of low visibility, as you mentioned, because there was overcast conditions. It was a hillside. It was right near the hillside, and also there was a deep jungle also in the area. The visuals show that the damage was totally, destructive, and the Mi-8 helicopter, as you mentioned, was hovering near the crash, and it has captured the footage. We have gotten that footage, and that shows that at least 49 people could have been killed. Some reports do indicate that there are no survivors, but as I've been repeatedly saying, these are still early hours of the crash. It won't be fair to unfair. So it will have to be seen how many people have survived this nightmarish incident.
Absolutely. These are visuals on your screen that are playing out of that crash site. This is very close to its destination. It was a domestic flight, which was barely about 570 kilometers in distance. It was about to land. In fact, it had reached very close to its destination when this plane crashed. And before it crashed, it had in fact lost communication. And in fact, from initial reports was that this plane had gone missing. But now the plane has been found. It has crashed very close to its destination. This is literally bordering between Russia and in fact China. This is the far eastern part of Russia in an area very close to its destination. This is the Amur region. Let's just also get you more news coming in, and this is Rishabh Pant, who has got injured. This news coming in. This is out of that English series. Pant was injured on day 2 of the Manchester test. Do remember that he couldn't even put his foot to the ground. He was injured extremely. He was in extreme pain. That is what we've heard. In fact, he couldn't walk out of the area. In fact, he had to be taken. So that is Rishabh Pant's injury that has led to, in fact, he is now out of the Manchester test series. It was a brutal injury that he had suffered. He has been injured. From what we're hearing, what has been confirmed now is on his right toe. Do remember that there were visuals that were playing out yesterday of how he was being carried out of the area yesterday while playing the match. This was on day 2, and this is adding worries as far as Team India is concerned. So his injury now has been confirmed that he will not be able to continue. He has been advised 6 weeks of rest. That is what we're hearing because of a fractured toe. This is a major blow when it comes to Team India. The wicketkeeper Rishabh Pant, who has now he has been advised to be resting it out at least for 6 weeks because of that toe injury. Osama, get us through the details of what is emerging at this point in time.
Unfortunate that Rishabh Pant will be missing out this particular test, and not just this particular test, but also what a number of reports are suggesting is that he'll also be out for at least 6 weeks. He has suffered a fracture in his foot, and he was taken out from the match last evening. He was taken straight to the hospital where there was a scan done, and there were speculations about whether he would be able to continue in this particular match or not. And then according to what we have been learning from multiple reports, Rishabh Pant will be out for at least 6 weeks. This is a tentative time period that is being mentioned, and we're basically quoting a number of reports that have suggested that he will be out for at least 6 months. This is quite a blow for Team India at this moment, because Rishabh Pant is playing this match as a wicketkeeper and a batter. So this is basically a dual loss for India in this particular match. Will there be a substitution or not, considering the kind of injury that he has sustained? Well, we don't know yet. The match referee is going to decide on that, and that is something that we'll have to wait and watch. But Dhruv Jurel, he will be taking his place as far as keeping is concerned. But India definitely at a loss, because they will be playing with one batsman less, and that too in form of Rishabh Pant.
Right, of course, when you talk about replacement, in fact, what are the alternate options here, Osama?
Well, Divya, as I mentioned, Dhruv Jurel, he played the last match when Rishabh Pant was not available. He had suffered a minor injury in his finger. And Dhruv Jurel played that particular match, and it is quite likely that Dhruv Jurel will take his place in this match as well. But like I mentioned, he won't be playing as a batter. He'll only be playing as a wicketkeeper. So India is playing one batsman less in this test match, and that too in form of Rishabh Pant. Remember, Rishabh Pant, he has been absolutely phenomenal in this entire test series. He has come in and scored runs when India needed it the most. And to lose Rishabh Pant and in this particular manner is definitely going to hurt India, and especially looking at how the series is poised at the moment. India is 2-1 down.
One of their in-form batters, and there have been other injuries as well, and that has in fact, really impacted Team India. But this is a huge blow, like you're mentioning. Take us through, where does this really leave Team India?
Well, as I mentioned, this is a loss for India, and India is going to be playing one batsman less. Remember, this is the fourth Test match. India has came very close to winning the third Test match, and then lost it. It's England leading that Test series by 2-1. And at this particular moment, it is quite important for India to get a win in this match to stay in the series. And if that doesn't happen, then India will be losing the series in this very Test match, and the last match will be a dead rubber, just to say. But how will India cope up with this particular loss is the big question. Remember, like I mentioned, Rishabh Pant has been absolutely phenomenal. He has been one of the top run getters for India. Whenever India were in trouble, whenever India needed people to come in and counter-attack the English bowlers, I beg your pardon, he has done that, and he has been absolutely phenomenal in that particular case. And to lose somebody like a Rishabh Pant in this Test match, and not just this Test match, as I mentioned, there are multiple reports that are suggesting that he has suffered a fracture in his foot. And although it is a minor fracture, but it will take at least 4 to 6 weeks for him to recover and get back to playing cricket, and that is something that India will have to wait and see how things unfold from here. The BCCI will be closely looking at the situation. The BCCI will be monitoring the entire situation along with the medical team, and he will be. It is quite likely that he will be flown back to India to basically for the next course of treatment. And when that happens, we'll have to wait and watch. Many reports are also suggesting that he will be flown in a couple of days. He won't be playing this particular Test match, that is for sure. And then he will also be missing the last Test match as well.
Right, of course, he was in a lot of pain, a lot of agony. It was bleeding his foot. Of course, the visuals that we saw, that he needed a golf cart to basically make his way out, and that had been a huge problem yesterday. It didn't look good yesterday as well, Osama, and now it's been confirmed that he has been ruled out of the Manchester Test series.
Yes, absolutely. It didn't really look good while he was being taken away to the hospital. Remember, India were basically trying to get back into that Test match, and after having lost a couple of wickets in that Test match, Rishabh Pant, along with Sai Sudarshan, they were getting a good partnership together. Rishabh Pant, as he is in his own flamboyant way, tried to reverse sweep that fast delivery, and many times it happens that Rishabh Pant gets that right and the ball races away to the boundary. But this time around, it was sheer bad luck that Rishabh Pant managed to miss that ball, and the ball hit his leg. Rishabh Pant will, and as you mentioned, Rishabh Pant was taken away in a golf cart. He had to be rushed to a hospital, and then, as I mentioned, there were multiple reports that are now confirming that he will be out for a couple of weeks, most likely 4 to 6 weeks, and that is basically the duration of the treatment. So when somebody
of course, this comes on the heels of Nitish Kumar Reddy and Arshdeep Singh also being ruled out. So this is, adding to the woes as far as the issues are concerned with Team India.
Yes, Divya, this is a young team, and India had gone this particular series with a young team. There were the likes of Arshdeep and Akashdeep who were playing here for the first time, and similarly for Rishabh Pant in that particular sense is a senior pro because he had played in England before, and for India to lose 2 pacers and then a batter like Rishabh Pant who not just has the quality to stay at the crease and consolidate for India, but also to counter-attack, and that is something that you need against somebody like an England team who are quite famous for playing that baseball style of cricket, that ultra-aggressive style of cricket, and for somebody, for India to lose Rishabh Pant in that particular manner, that is definitely going to come back and hurt India because it is a big loss, and India will now be looking for replacements.
The only replacement that the BCCI has decided upon, of course, is Anshul Kamboj, who is going to be making his debut there at that Manchester Test series. But of course, Nitish Kumar Reddy first and Arshdeep Singh all being ruled out, and now of course Rishabh Pant. That all hopes were pinned on the man, and this is a big blow when it comes to Team India. Pant was injured, and visuals on your screen of how he was carried out. In fact, a golf cart was needed to take him to the hospital, and now it's been confirmed that he has suffered from a fracture. That is his right toe that has suffered from a fracture, and the medical advice that is being given to him is that he needs to rest it out for the next 6 weeks, and which is why he has been ruled out of the Manchester Test series, and that is going to be a big issue when it comes to Team India. As we mentioned, there have been multiple injury issues ahead of the 4 tests against England in Manchester, and like we mentioned, it's not just Rishabh Pant, but before that Arshdeep Singh as well as Nitish Kumar Reddy, they're not being able to play as far as the Manchester Test series is concerned. And with that, let's just switch tracks to Prime Minister Modi's high-stakes UK visit, and all eyes on that crucial FTA deal that is going to be signed today. This has been in the works for the last 3 years. To get more details, Gauri Dwivedi joining us. Gauri, of course, the day is finally here. This deal was finalized about 2 months ago in the month of May, and we've been waiting for this day. What is this really going to mean for India? What's going to get cheaper? That's what I really want to know.
And that's what many people want to know, Divya. And in fact, this is a deal that's been in the works for 3 years. That's been the kind of negotiations that have really taken place back and forth. And I believe that's something that we're going to tell more in terms of to our viewers why this is such a high-stake visit for the Prime Minister. This is his 4th visit where the focus will be on trade ties. As we've been saying that the FTA, the Free Trade Agreement, was signed a few weeks back, but that actual signing process will take place now. The Commerce Minister, Piyush Goyal, will be signing it along with his British counterpart. The meeting will take place between Prime Minister Modi and his British counterpart, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, very shortly. In about less than an hour is when the meeting is likely to take place. It's going to be extremely significant in terms of the fact that this is the world's 5th and 6th largest economies coming together for a free trade pact. 5th being India and 6th largest being the UK. They will come together for a landmark trade deal that is going to really open up the gateways for India in terms of providing major push for several of our sectors those with regard to labor-intensive sectors are likely to get a huge push, where duties are going to be reduced very significantly. Now, this is likely to have a major push for our export sectors and several others as well. Of course, primarily the focus of this visit is going to be trade ties, but there's an expectation that strategic aspects may also be looked at during this visit. It's a short visit with the focus being on the free trade pact being signed. Let's also now get in Radhika Iyer, who joins us live from London to talk more on this. Now, Radhika, this is an important visit of the Prime Minister, the focus being primarily on trade. FTA is the key aspect of this entire visit. Walk us through what could be and what are likely to be the next steps in terms of the itinerary. It's a short, tight visit, but walk us through the Prime Minister's engagements.
Short but very significant, Gauri. Yes, within an hour or so, we will have both Prime Ministers of the United Kingdom and India sit across a table, share a cup of tea, but enjoy a historic moment. This is a moment of pride, not just for India, but also the United Kingdom. This forging of partnership, this economic embrace, as many would call, is a public statement being made to the world at a time we're seeing so much tension involving trade, especially sourced from America and the United States. So this is a very strategic move, a political move, and a statement being made calling for wider collaboration between nations, between dynamic economies such as India and Britain, one being the fourth largest economy in the world and one being the sixth largest economy in the world. India, with its strengths, with its ambition, with its growth, with its aspiration story and the trajectory, being an extremely attractive destination, a country to tie trades with and to sign this deal. So for Britain, this is a huge achievement as well, considering Britain at this moment will have a huge economic boost in getting the deal clinched with India post-Brexit. This, as many have called, is a real comprehensive deal, unlike Britain has had with Japan, Australia, even the US, which are termed otherwise as rollovers. As for India, this deal is a statement to say to the world that India is open, the markets are open, one which is very dynamic and one which can offer easy access, ease of business, and of course, inviting further investment and further creation of jobs. In terms of numbers, the deal means that over the next 1 year or 2 years time, the changes can be seen on ground. There will be a lot of Indian brands out here in Britain. A lot of people in Britain will start wearing made in India textiles, as opposed to now where there is a lot of textiles coming from Bangladesh, Vietnam, Pakistan, etc. That is going to change. So visible changes here in Britain. Similarly, in India, there are going to be lots of physical changes where there would be a lot of British goods being sold, with India's 99% of the exports going to likely see a zero tariff. That is a huge boost for
Indeed, that's going to be extremely significant and opens up the opportunities that the entire market provides. In fact, Radhika, stay with me because I want to now talk in terms of the opportunities that this FTA actually opens up. One is that our labor-intensive sectors are likely to see further duty cuts, which will mean, of course, more job creation, more possibility of higher exports coming in from sectors that really matter to India because of the fact that they are labor intensive. And on the other end, of course, there's an expectation that India's MSMEs are also going to see a huge boost with the FTA being signed. And in fact, let's rope in Vishal to talk more about this in terms of the fact that India's MSMEs are positioned to make unprecedented scale and impact with the agreement that is set to dismantle historical disadvantages that Indian manufacturers have had so far.
Well, as part of the India-UK FTA, India's medium and small manufacturers have been positioned to make unprecedented scale and impact. As you mentioned, Gauri, the agreement seeks to dismantle historical disadvantages that Indian manufacturers have faced in the past. So what are they? A powerful edge in labor-intensive sectors like leather and footwear, textiles and clothing, gemstones and jewelry, furniture and sports goods. So these are some of the areas that will definitely be positively impacted when and if this deal is totally signed. Moving on, India will now be able to outpace rivals like Bangladesh, Cambodia and Pakistan So these are some of the labor-intensive forces that some of the biggest forces in Asia. So India could, counter these forces and also upend them. So moving ahead, there's a focus on protecting the intellectual property rights of Indian manufacturers. So brand of India will be protected, will stand out, and this is a high priority as far as the FTA, UK-India FTA is concerned. Now, India's leather and footwear exports to the UK could also exceed $900 million, which is close to $1 billion. So this is one of the areas which will most definitely will be positively impacted. Lastly, India will enter the top 3 suppliers in the UK in textiles, leather and footwear. Again, these areas will be most positively affected, and we have discussed several of these measures that will be taken, and this is how FTA is likely to benefit Indians as we been covering.
All right, Vishal, decoding that in terms of the specifics and the fine print of how that FTA is set to really be a game changer for India and also for the larger bilateral trade. And Radhika, let me come to you in terms of then while the nitty-gritties of the trade pact is extremely significant because there is sector-wise impact on it, but the big picture, the larger impact here is that it's going to really open up export opportunities for Indian manufacturers. It will also going to ensure that our Indian agriculture remains protected, and at the same time, of course, throw up a lot more job opportunities, isn't it? So it's going to be a huge win-win both for India and the UK.
Yes, absolutely. There is going to be benefits on both sides. India is likely to support at least 5 million jobs in the next few years in the export sector, while the UK will see a boost of income by about £4.8 billion by 2040. These are some of the numbers. However, the strategic messages being sent out by the two nations is extremely significant. The timing of this deal coming through is extremely significant in the world. Besides, the two nations are likely to have exchanges of not just people, but ideas of transformation. There's going to be digital exchange of both information, innovation, transformation, automation. And these are some of the complementing strengths that the two nations have. India being the youngest nation in the world, being the 4th largest economy, one which has shown clear ambition and growth trajectory, which is a statement being put out by India. And this means that the negotiations have been very hard. Just to take viewers back to January 2022, when the Conservative government was in power here in Britain, that's when the negotiations began. But then the negotiations took painstakingly about 18 to 20 rounds. A few negotiating team members that I spoke to who didn't want to be quoted said that it was as if India was looking eye to eye, talking business instead of doing the soft talk. So the negotiations have been very hard on both ends, which is why we see that India benefits by not having agriculture in the remit of the entire list of conversations. This deal is being seen as a comprehensive one, very cleverly crafted, but allows for future review. So it's being explained in analogical terms as if it's a platform, a floor on which there is going to be a lot more ceilings that are built over the coming years. India and UK are very aware that there is no precedent to such a deal, and so there is going to be continuous review and evidence monitoring to ensure that benefits are on both sides to try and evaluate and keep improving and improvising on the negotiations and how to get across over the line.
Indeed, that's a very important aspect, Radhika, of what you just highlighted, which is that India has been a tough negotiator, and countries are in fact finding that when it comes to trade negotiations, India isn't giving an inch without there is commensurate give and take, and also protecting its core interests, farming being one, agriculture being a key priority area in terms of protecting the interests of Indian farmers. Specifically, viewers, if you talk about, because we've been talking about labor intensive sectors, we've been talking about leather, textiles, footwear, just to get a sense of what is the kind of duty cut. Broadly, that duty cut could actually come down from 16% to maybe as low as 4%. Just to tell our viewers that when trade negotiations happen, they happen row by row, column by column, which means every single product product is discussed and detailed separately, so which is why it's a tedious and a lengthy process as well, and which is why we're also talking about the big picture here. Now, Radhika, in terms of the contribution that India and Indian companies are having in terms of the UK economy, it's been very significant, hasn't it? Whether it's terms of the number of companies that are there, the kind of employment we are generating, the amount of foreign direct investment that Indian companies are making there is actually very substantial, and all of that is actually going to get a big impetus, isn't it, with this trade pact on both sides? We're looking at huge investment opportunities on both sides coming in.
Explains why Britain tapped the opportunity to have this trade deal with India as opposed to any other country. Indian companies are at least 1,200 in number across Britain. And just in the capital cities or in the main cities of England and Wales and Scotland, Indian companies have close to 100,000 jobs created. India's community here is 72% highly employable and one which contributes in a big way to the GDP. India is the second largest investor in Britain just after the United States. So explains why Indian markets, India's growth, India's dynamic economy is extremely attractive and very, very significant for Britain. While Britain continues to remain the sixth largest investor in India, British cultural ties have been extremely significant. This tie or this trade deal coming at a time, on one hand, you have in the West, the US's tariffs and trade controversy, and on the other hand, you have China, which is posing itself as the manufacturing hub. India's statement with this free trade deal is simply this: look at India, look at India's growth, look at the manufacturing and the trust ability that India can offer, the ability of ease that India can offer, and sign up for further trade deals. That seems to be the message, the strategic message that India is making to the world at this time.
Absolutely, Radhika, and you've decoded that in detail, which is why this trade pact is so important. And the expectation is that this trade pact would actually double the bilateral trade between UK and India over the course of the next 5 years. By 2030, the aspiration is that the bilateral trade would actually double between India and UK. I'm going to leave it there. Radhika, you're joining us live from London. Let me now switch focus and also get in Sakshi, who joins us to talk more about the impact this would have in terms of India's blue economy, in terms of specific areas where the FTA is likely to actually unleash India's blue economy and aspirations.
Unleashing the power of India's blue economy, in other words, stepping up India's marine products exports to give India's fisher folk an opportunity to get into a market where there is massive untapped export potential. Now let's spell this out for our viewers. India's marine product exports, valued at over $8 billion in 2022-23, include high demand fish like shrimp and, of course, cuttlefish, tuna and whitefish, with the UK as a key market. The India-UK Free Trade Agreement eliminates tariffs on Indian seafood, enhancing price realization and benefiting coastal fisher folk through increased procurement rates. Now, seafood processing plants employing thousands of women can double capacity utilization with improved UK market access under the Free Trade Agreement. So, coastal states like Kerala, Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu will see significant job creation from the Free Trade Agreement export-led opportunities.
Massive row over Bihar voter list, disruptions from Parliament to Bihar. Leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi says EC won't get away with this. The Enforcement Directorate is raiding premises linked to Reliance Group chairman Anil Ambani in Delhi and Mumbai in connection with a money laundering case. ED probes over 35. ED raids across 35 premises, 50 companies and 25 people. The Thailand-Cambodia border face-off intensifies. Reports suggest 9 civilians have died in Thailand. Thailand launched strikes on Cambodia as major escalation has taken place in the border dispute. Prime Minister Modi in UK, the focus on the free trade pact between India and UK. Modi and Starmer are set to sign a historic trade deal.
Presented by Canara Bank. Together we can.
जनता के पास सवाल ही सवाल है। जवाब ढूंढने को वो देखती है न्यूज़ और देखती है यहाँ तो सवालों का मायाजाल है। ऊपर से ये अलग फाइट है, कोई पूरा लेफ्ट तो कोई पूरा राइट है। बीच में मुद्दे के साथ कौन है, जनता को जवाब चाहिए। इसीलिए सवालों की परेड नहीं, मैं लाऊंगा खबरों की कचहरी। मैं शुभांकर मिश्रा, मेरे साथ देखिए कचहरी रात 8 बजे सिर्फ NDTV इंडिया पर।
Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools and lead with impact. Starts August the 23rd. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of maximum city is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
But I'd like to start this off by asking you, Vishnu, what you think about the whole question of India not having stealth fighters right now.
It's a huge
Everyone's
problem.
trying to sell them to us as well.
It's a huge problem, Shiv. Let's face it, in as much as we love the Rafale aircraft and the Indian Air Force is completely vouching for it, perhaps they'd like more than 100 more. The Indian Navy has just gotten into an order for 26 Rafale M aircraft. There is a generation gap between the Rafale and the stealth. There is a good reason why a stealth platform is called a 5th generation aircraft and a Rafale is a 4th or 4.5 generation aircraft, and that is low observability. So in as much as the Rafale has brilliant sensors, both in terms of its radar, its defensive suite, its electronic warfare suite, its towed array decoy system, it is not typically a low observability platform in quite the same manner in which a stealth aircraft is. Its design form is different. And therefore, if Pakistan does have low observable aircraft, which would be the J-35, in fact, the first ones might even start entering service or coming into the PAF ahead of entering service at some time this year, then India is in trouble.
So
Why?
this year? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first could actually start coming in this year. They're really pushing for it. And they've gotten apparently into some agreement with the Chinese to ensure that the funding is done on very loose and terms favorable to Pakistan, as has been in the case in the past. If Pakistan starts acquiring low platforms which are low observable, in other words, stealth platforms, then that's an additional headache for the Indian Air Force, because
Massive row over Bihar voter list. Disruptions from Parliament to Bihar. Leader of opposition in Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi, says Election Commission will not get away with this. BJP hits back, says opposition is desperate. Enforcement Directorate is raiding premises linked to Reliance Group Chairman Anil Ambani in Delhi and Mumbai in connection with a money laundering case. ED is probing over 35 premises which it has raided for 50 companies and 25 people. A passenger aircraft carrying over 43 people has crashed in Russia's Far East region bordering China. Thailand-Cambodia border face-off intensifies. Reports suggest 9 civilians have died in Thailand so far, even as Thailand has launched strikes on Cambodia. Big blow to the Indian team as Rishabh Pant suffers fractured toe. Rishabh Pant is now ruled out of India versus England Test series. And Prime Minister Modi in UK for signing of the historic trade deal between India and UK. The focus is on the free trade pact between the two countries. Our top story on the show, big blow to India as Rishabh Pant has now been ruled out of the England series. Rishabh Pant was injured on day of the Manchester test. He was injured on his right toe. Rishabh Pant is the vice captain of the Indian team. Sources say that he's been advised at least 6 weeks of rest. And Ishan Kishan is now likely to join the squad. Let's get in Boria Majumdar to tell us more in terms of what this means for the Indian team and its chances.
As you can see, it's blue sky here in Manchester. This is Old Trafford, as you can see, gate number 1, but it's not a very good day for India. What we just heard about an hour and a half back is Rishabh Pant has been advised 6 weeks rest, and that's the update. Will Ishan Kishan be drafted in? From what I hear, he too had a knee injury and had 4 stitches. He will be now. Is there a call there? Dhruv Jurel will obviously play the Oval Test match. Rishabh Pant will stick around with the team for this particular Test match, and then a call will be taken whether he stays on or not. But the truth, and a grim truth for India, everybody else will have to step up because Rishabh Pant has been ruled out of this match and this series and has been advised 6 weeks of rest. Everybody understood yesterday, hope against hope. There was a chance, in fact, when I woke up at 5:30, there was still talk whether or not Rishabh Pant would be, pushed with some sports science stuff and medical stuff and injuries and painkillers and all of that. Can he bat? But obviously, it was against medical advice. It is not possible. Rishabh Pant with a fracture has been ruled out of this particular series and has been ruled out of this match for sure. 6 weeks is what we are being told, could be more. 6 weeks at the moment, but could be more. So India's wicketkeeper, batter, vice captain, leader, one of the best players of this team, not there. This is a massive blow for India. Can India cope up with this? We have to wait and see.
All right, turning attention now to a big case that is in the Supreme Court, the Darshan case, where the top court has wrapped High Court on the bail given to actor Darshan. Supreme Court stinger to the Karnataka High Court, where Supreme Court has said we will not commit the same mistake as the High Court has done. In fact, it has said the Apex Court's commentary includes that seems the High Court gave an acquittal order where the Supreme Court has wrapped over a bail that has been given to superstar, the Kannada superstar in the Supreme Court. Crosshair, the trouble mount for the Kannada superstar. And let's get in Nupur Dogra for more on this. Nupur tracks the courts for us very closely. Nupur, talk to us about the kind of commentary that's come in from the Supreme Court. Very sharp, in fact, and very sharp set of observations coming in from the Apex Court.
Yes, Gauri, right. Today, again, this is the second time that the Supreme Court has taken a strong exception of the way, the manner in which the Karnataka High Court has granted bail to the 7 accused in the Renuka Swamy murder case, which includes actor Darshan. Now, Supreme Court, while hearing the plea challenging bail granted to actor Darshan today, after hearing all the arguments, has reserved its order. But the final order is yet to come out. But today, the Supreme Court made some very strong observations and said that the grounds on which it said the reasoning employed by the High Court in granting bail seems to be very problematic. It questioned that whether a common man would have been granted similar kind of bail and similar kind of reasoning. The Supreme Court noted that the High Court had granted bail, noting that grounds of arrest were not furnished to him. Justice J.B. Partiwala of the Supreme Court took a strong exception that how a High Court judge can make such a grave mistake in a case which was clearly of a murder and conspiracy case. He said this is just not a simple murder case. There was proper conspiracy behind it. Prima facie, he observed. He in fact went on to say that the order of the Karnataka High Court seems to be perverse. And this was in fact the prima facie view taken by the Supreme Court today while reserving the order. So this was in fact a top court stance. We will have to await for the final verdict from the Supreme Court as it has reserved. But it seems that the Supreme Court is not very convinced with the reasoning employed by the High Court in granting bail to actor Darshan.
All right, let's leave it there. Nupur Dogra joining us live from the Supreme Court on that big case. In fact, let's also get in Veera Raghav to tell more about the significance of this case, the kind of commentary that's come in from the Supreme Court, and what it means for actor Darshan from here on.
This is not the first observation. The second time that the Supreme Court is making a sharp observation on the High Court's order granting Darshan bail. Now, this raises a larger question of those influential people like Darshan, who have been committed who are being tried for heinous crimes. Is bail a right, A? And B, as Deepak was pointing out, it's about traveling abroad, going in for shooting. When the case is going on, the person is virtually free. So I think the Supreme Court is raising very serious concerns over the bail here for Darshan in a case, as Deepak was pointing out, which was gruesome to say the least. Of course, there are graphic details that can be pointed out on it, but it raises a very large question about the order of bail itself in the Darshan case. And I think the fact that the case went out of public attention, and once it went out of public attention, that despite the heinousness and the seriousness of the crime, that the actor is out on bail, virtually being able to live a normal life. Does he have the potential to influence the case, given that he's an influential star? Multiple questions there. Obviously, the order has been reserved right now. One has to see the final order because often courts make strong observations. We'll have to see what the final order is. And all of this becomes substantial only if the final order is one that cancels bail. So if that's the case, then obviously he'll have to head back to jail. But it raises a far more serious question, one that may not be restricted to this case alone.
All right, Deepak Bopanna joins us live for more on this. Deepak, now troubles are mounting for actor Darshan simply because of the kind of commentary that's coming from the Supreme Court. Not at all happy with the Karnataka High Court that has pretty much allowed Darshan to go out shoot in Thailand even as he's facing such serious charges.
The charges as far as Darshan's case has always been very, very serious. It was a heinous crime, and now the law, of course, will take its own course. But right now, when you look at what the Supreme Court has said, the question marks will arise whether, because Darshan, of course, being the influential person that he is, being the popular person that he is, commanding the kind of popularity or the influence that he can, has he gotten away or would the common man be given the same kind of privileges or the same kind of orders that he has been? These are questions that will come up, and especially when the Supreme Court itself has been apprehensive about the kind of orders that have been passed by the judge of the Karnataka High Court. So it's a very strong observation. Based on what the orders would be, it could also become a precedent. But as we speak, Darshan, of course, after getting bail in the Karnataka High Court, another order allowed him to even travel abroad. He's right now in Thailand, shooting, living his life as if nothing has happened. Meanwhile, you have the family of the victim, of course, still in pain, still suffering the loss of their son, their husband, the father. And as we continue to monitor all of these developments, we are still awaiting Darshan's return to India. Even as the Supreme Court reserves its order in this, challenge that the Karnataka government has done against the bail orders passed by the High Court, what will happen? What is going to be the future for Darshan? Is he going back to jail? These are questions that now linger.
We leave it there. Deepak joining us live from Bengaluru on that big story. Now shifting focus to the other big story that we're tracking. It seems there's yet another rare tragedy that has taken place, this time in Russia, where an Angara Airlines flight carrying 43 people, including 5 children, crashed in the Amur region. The aircraft, which had gone off radar while en route to Tenda, was found by emergency teams hours later. The Russian ministry has now confirmed the crash. And let's get in Vishal, who's joining us for more on this. Now, Vishal, another horrific air tragedy that has come to light. Any more details that we have so far in terms of what could have possibly happened that led to this crash?
Well, some fresh visuals have emerged in the last 1 hour or so on social media. These are unverified visuals, but they do paint a grim picture, and some reports suggest that almost all the people on board were killed in this crash. So far, the authorities are mum on the number of people who have been killed or number of people who have been injured. We've been reporting that there were at least 5 children on board and 6 crew were also there. Many reports also suggest, state media particularly has mentioned that the local authorities are investigating the angle of crew error. So that will be explored, and also there could have been some malfunction in the aircraft. It was an aircraft that was built in the Soviet era back in 1976 or so is what the reports claim. So whether or not the aircraft had been regularly maintained, that question has also been asked. But some reports suggest that the aircraft had gone into maintenance in this month itself. So that will also have to be investigated. It was a small plane, only about 50 people could be on board that, and it crashed on the hillside of the Tinda region. It was approaching the Tinda region. That was the destination. It borders near the China-Russia region. So that is where it crashed on the hillside. The authorities are still investigating the matter. The visuals need to be verified, but the crash itself has been confirmed.
Shall we leave it there? Thanks much for giving us those updates. As we are saying, another horrific tragedy that has come to light, but there's more international news coming in, and we're going to keep roping Vishal for that as well, which is the fact that the border face-off between Thailand and Cambodia has intensified, with reports suggesting that 9 civilians have died in Thailand. Thailand had launched strikes on Cambodia. This major escalation in the border dispute. A Thai F-16 fighter jet bombed targets in Cambodia on Thursday as both sides tried to pin the blame on the other. This comes after weeks of tension over a border dispute that escalated into these clashes that have so far taken the death toll to 9 in Thailand, and 2 Thai soldiers have been injured in these heavy clashes with Cambodian troops at a disputed area of their shared border. Now, Vishal remains with us for this story. Now, Vishal, as we talk about this border dispute, it's also important to tell our viewers, isn't it, that out of the 800-kilometer border that both these countries share, most of it is actually undemarcated, which means that there's a history of these clashes, and which is why they have made a fresh flashpoint came to light, and which is why these tensions once again came to fore.
Yeah, these skirmishes date back decades, and ever since the era of the Cambodian Civil War, there had been a lot of these demarcated areas, these unmarked areas, which had been, contested from both the sides. One particular temple built on the Thailand side, built on the Cambodian side actually, is being repeatedly claimed by the Thai side, and that is at the center of this conflict, is what the reports suggest. Both the sides have been claiming that that temple, that 9th century, almost 1,000-year-old temple, belongs to their territory, and that is how it started. The tensions had been simmering for months now. Back in May, one soldier was killed when both the sides almost came to blows, and ever since then there had been on and off skirmishes, but now it's almost a full-blown conflict. At least 9 people have been killed is what the reports suggest. Some reports even suggest that Thailand had even deployed F-16s, at least 4 to 5 F-16s went into Cambodian territory and fired. Cambodia has also retaliated, and most of the people who have been killed belong to the Thai side, is what the local reports suggest. And these tit-for-tat fires are still continuing. People on the border region, they are running for cover. We have the visual from these areas. Some reports even indicate that the children who were on their way to schools, even they were not spared. They were killed in these horrific attacks. What has gone on the Cambodian side, that is not yet clear. Most of the damage seems to have been done on the Thai side so far. But it will have to be seen as the hour progresses as to what is the extent of the whole damage.
All right, let's leave it there, and also in fact play out this explainer that's been filed by Associated Press on what really happened, the trigger, the flashpoint, and why this is something that isn't new to both these countries.
Relations between Thailand and Cambodia are spiralling downwards as tension increases over disputed border areas. On Wednesday, Thailand expelled Cambodia's ambassador and recalled its own from Phnom Penh. In response, Cambodia is recalling all its diplomatic staff, leaving behind only a second chargé d'affaires and requiring the Thais to do the same. Well, this follows an incident Wednesday in which a patrolling Thai soldier lost a leg and 4 other soldiers were hurt in a landmine blast in a border area claimed by both sides. Thailand has also now closed several frontier crossings and said it will consider further measures. Last week there was a similar incident in a different part of the border in which 3 Thai soldiers were injured. The Thais say the mines were newly laid and of a type they don't use. The armies called on Cambodia to take responsibility and called the incident a serious threat to peace and stability in the border region. But Cambodia has called the claims baseless. It denies planting the devices and says these locations are still littered with old mines from previous conflicts. It also said the Thai soldiers were inside Cambodia, not Thailand, and that they were violating an agreement on patrolling paths. The 2 neighbours have long disputed the ownership of several small parcels of land. This current, increasingly bitter face-off turned deadly in May when a Cambodian soldier died in an armed clash. Efforts to defuse the situation have so far failed. Meanwhile, nationalist passions are rising on both sides of the border.
Turning attention now to the other big story that we are tracking, Enforcement Directorate raiding premises linked to Anil Ambani in Delhi and Mumbai in connection with a money laundering case. Sources say following 2 FIRs registered by CBI which alleged large-scale financial irregularities. ED officials raided and examined records at over 50 firms allegedly connected to the case. 25 individuals have been questioned. The probe agency is conducting search operations at nearly 35 locations. The preliminary investigation by ED has revealed a well-planned and thought-out scheme to siphon off public money by cheating banks, shareholders, investors and other public institutions. Between 2017 and 2019, Yes Bank is said to have disbursed 3,000 crore rupees in loans to several of these companies of Anil Ambani Group. The Enforcement Directorate claims to have detected an illegal quid pro quo arrangement where promoters of Yes Bank, which was Rana Kapoor and his family, allegedly received payments in their privately held entities just before sanctioning these loans, which did not meet the due diligence standards. Now, what really happened here and what were the kind of raids that really took place? Let's first get in Anushka, who has answers to what exactly did happen today from the ED side.
We do understand by now is that ED is conducting raids on 35 locations, 25 people and several business entities linked to Anil Ambani. Now, the accusation is that the money laundering is to the tune of rupees 3,000 crore, wherein Yes Bank had in fact being involved in quid pro quo had sanctioned rupees 3,000 crore from 2017 to 2019 to several business entities linked to Anil Ambani. Not just that, what we are understanding here is that several of the Yes Bank senior officials and entities were involved in this whole case, where Anil Ambani had in fact taken money from the bank and had, several of the people had also in fact gained kickbacks from this particular case. The whole money was sanctioned without any proper documentation. Not just that, also the evergreening of bank accounts was in fact done. Apart from all of that, several of the public money was being siphoned off, in a very well thought out manner is what the ED is accusing in this whole matter. The CBI had filed 2 FIRs regarding this particular case, and after that, ED has taken over in this complete matter. What we are learning is that right now the whole raid is being conducted to several locations and business entities linked to Anil Ambani in a case regarding the Ambani company, Anil Ambani Group linked to Yes Bank scam that happened from 2017 to 2019. Many of the loans were in fact given in a very unsafe manner. The whole money trail is in fact being linked to shell companies, which is the modus operandi when money is being siphoned off from public accounts. So this is what the whole case revolves around. And right now the ED is conducting raids on various locations. 35 locations is what we are getting to know, and 25 people are in fact also being questioned in this whole manner. In this whole case, and right now also the raids is being conducted by the ED. What we have to see is that what kind of evidence can ED gather from this whole case. what kind of incriminating documents can be, taken out from this particular matter. Because what we do understand by now is that not just the ED and CBI, but inputs were in fact also given by several of the other agencies as well. That includes NHFL and several other in fact authorities which had given inputs to the ED about this particular money laundering case.
भारत माता की इनकलाब वंदे जय आदिवासी जय जोहार भगवान बिरसा मुंडा की। आज इतनी बड़ी संख्या में मैं देख रहा हूं, दूर तक जहां तक नजर जा रही है लोग ही लोग हैं। इतनी बड़ी संख्या में आज यहां पे आए हुए मेरे सभी प्यारे आदिवासी बहनों, भाइयों, माताओं, बुजुर्गों, बच्चों, आप सबको मेरा नमस्कार, सबको जय जोहार। दोस्तों, मैं देख रहा हूं बारिश आ रही है, इतनी भारी बारिश आ रही है। सब लोग छतरी लेके खड़े हैं, अपने सर के ऊपर कुर्सी लेके खड़े हैं। खेती का टाइम है, सभी खेडूत अपना अपना खेत छोड़ के इतनी बड़ी संख्या में आज यहां पे इकट्ठे हुए हैं। क्यों? एक बार जोर से नारा लगा दो, जेल के ताले टूटेंगे। आप लोग अपना अपना खेती छोड़ के इतनी बड़ी संख्या में आज यहां पे आए हैं क्योंकि भाजपा की सरकार ने पिछले कई सालों से जिस तरह से आदिवासी समाज का शोषण किया है, दमन किया है, आपका हक छीना है, सारा आदिवासी समाज आज भाजपा से बहुत ज्यादा नाराज है। आप लोगों ने इतने सालों में भाजपा के नेताओं को भी वोट दिया, कांग्रेस के नेताओं ने भी वोट दिया, लेकिन किसी ने आप लोगों की आवाज नहीं उठाई, किसी नेता ने आपकी आवाज नहीं उठाई, किसी मंत्री ने आपकी आवाज नहीं उठाई, किसी पार्टी ने आपकी आवाज नहीं उठाई। 2022 में, आज से 3 साल पहले 2022 में चुनाव हुए, डेडियापाड़ा से एक आदिवासी समाज का युवा नेता चेतर वसावा खड़ा हुआ चुनाव में। पढ़ा लिखा लड़का है, आपका बेटा है, आदिवासी समाज का भाई है, एक पढ़ा लिखा ईमानदार समाज की सेवा करने वाला लड़का खड़ा हुआ। आपने भारी बहुमत देके चेतर वसावा को विधानसभा में भेज दिया, अपना एमएलए बना दिया। जब से चेतर वसावा एमएलए बना है, उसने आपके मुद्दे उठाए हैं। आपके बच्चों के लिए स्कूल नहीं बनवाते भाजपा वाले, जितने स्कूल हैं स्कूलों की हालत खराब है, चेतर वसावा ने स्कूलों का मुद्दा उठाया। जितने सरकारी अस्पताल हैं अस्पतालों की हालत खराब है, चेतर वसावा ने आपके अस्पतालों का मुद्दा उठाया। बिजली का मुद्दा उठाया, जल जंगल जमीन का मुद्दा उठाया। पूरे आदिवासी क्षेत्र के अंदर सड़कों का बुरा हाल है, चेतर वसावा ने सड़कों का मुद्दा उठाया।
All right, so let's address some breaking news that's coming in on the broadcast. This is regarding the Bengaluru stampede, where there's a claim that's been made by one of the stampede victims' family. The parent has actually filed a complaint saying that The gold that her daughter was wearing is missing. The ornaments were actually stolen during the post-mortem that was conducted. And let's get in Deepak for more on this. Deepak, it seems that there's a case of an alleged theft during the post-mortem. All right, viewers, with regards to the Bengaluru stampede case, the update that's come in is that the victim's family has filed a complaint. The mother has claimed that the gold ornaments that her daughter was wearing were stolen during the post-mortem. So this is a case of potential theft, an alleged theft, after the autopsy was conducted. This is regarding the Bengaluru stampede case where 11 people were killed, and the victim's parent has filed a complaint there. Update as far as the Bengaluru stampede case, and very unprecedented this allegation that has been made by the parent. We'll get my colleague Deepak to tell us more in terms of what this means. 11 people, remember, had lost their lives in the stampede near the Chinnaswamy Stadium that took place on the 4th of June. And the parent of one of the victims has now filed a complaint at the Commercial Street police station. All right, viewers, with that, it's a break. Thanks so much for watching.
Vanakkam Tamil Nadu.
Well, the battle for Tamil Nadu 2026 is open now.
After Chief Minister Stalin rolls up his sleeves.
And Vijay steps in as a star challenger.
This is a mass gathering, not for cash. Meanwhile, a former Chief Minister, Edapadi Palanisamy, begins his fight back.
The big comeback campaign by EPS has well and truly begun.
These are all the ultimate players, and this is going to be the ultimate test.
Well, in the latest episode of Control All Defense, we are talking about a platform that all of you want to hear about, that's Tejas. The big question, we do know it's a great platform, but is it of use for the Indian Air Force going into the future? How relevant will it remain?
कहना इस दीवार पे इतने इश्तहार चिपके हैं कि कोई दरार नजर नहीं आती। मैं उन लोगों में से जो कहता हूँ सारे इश्तहार फाड़ के फेंको, पहले दरार को एड्रेस करो।
ये दरार इसलिए क्योंकि कुछ लेफ्ट कुछ राइट, पर हम उन मुद्दों में आपके साथ जिनसे आपकी फाइट है। डिजिटल से देश समझा, अब टीवी पर समाधान लाना है। आइए मेरे साथ खबरों की कचहरी में सिर्फ NDTV पर।
A 36-hour non-stop flight by a small pack of B-2s. A lot of other aircraft were also involved, we know that. But let's talk about the B-2 flight itself. They took off from Missouri. 36 hours later, they landed back without once landing. They delivered their bombs 18 hours later over Iran and then came back. How was this possible? Because the Department of Defense says at no point of time on this 36-hour journey was there any reason to believe that they were either detected or reacted to?
Well, they weren't detected, because if they were, then they'd be in some serious trouble. It's one of the most unbelievable missions, one of the most historic long-range strike missions. There were 7 B-2s, which by B-2...
Hello, Moto.
Moto G96 5G. All eyes on you.
Let's get to the very latest, and this is in regard to Rishabh Pant, who suffered an injury. In fact, he was injured on his foot. He was limping his way. A golf cart was called in order to get him out during the match yesterday. Now it has been confirmed that he has suffered from a fracture on his right toe, and which is why he's been advised to rest for the next 6 weeks. The wicketkeeper batter will be missing the Oval Test against England. The India wicketkeeper batter Rishabh Pant will no longer be part of the Anderson Tendulkar Trophy and has been ruled out of the remainder of the Test series against England, as he has been advised to rest for now. For the next couple of weeks is what is being said. He has suffered from a fracture as far as his right toe is concerned. There you can see he was in a lot of pain. It was bleeding as well. He couldn't put any weight on the ground, and that is after the scans that were conducted yesterday. Well, the batter is now out of the remainder of the Manchester Test series. And what does this really mean for Team India? It is a big blow when it comes to Team India, considering that there have been other injuries as well. So Pant, who went to the hospital for scans, and the report that has revealed that toe fracture. He was unable to put any sort of weight on his foot in the end. He walked off the field with the help of that golf cart, and once he was in the hospital, that's really revealed that he is out. He has been ruled out of the Manchester Test series. And time now to get you the latest from the United Kingdom. That's where the Prime Minister is, and all eyes on that crucial FTA that is going to be signed in the United Kingdom in the presence of the Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal as well as his British counterpart. We have Vishnu getting us all the details. Vishnu, what does this deal which has been in the makings, which has the negotiations that have been carried on for the last 3 years, finally coming true, finally being finalized, inking that deal, sealing that deal, is the Prime Minister along with Prime Minister Starmer there in the United Kingdom?
Good afternoon. A new dawn of economic promise is rising as India and the United Kingdom edge closer to sealing a transformative free trade agreement. It's going to happen just in the next little while. This historic deal, years in the making, is poised to unleash a torrent of opportunity, binding to global powerhouses in a partnership that could redefine prosperity in many ways. Imagine the potential: Indian innovators and British businesses collaborating seamlessly, slashing tariffs, and igniting a trade boom projected to soar past $100 billion by 2030. Well, that's the ambition, that's the goal, but this goes a long way towards potentially realizing that dream. From tech hubs in Bengaluru to London's financial core, this agreement promises to supercharge investment, create thousands of jobs, and fuel innovation. Indian spices, textiles, and tech expertise will flood British markets, while British automotive giants, whiskey distillers, and cutting-edge services gain unprecedented access to our vibrant 1.4 billion strong market. This isn't just a trade deal, it's a bridge between ambitions, forging a future where both nations thrive. Now, there are lots of aspects of the free trade agreement, so what we're going to try and do is run through a couple of them to give you an idea of how this is more than just talk. There's something quite substantive. If you ask me, it's the agriculture sector which gains the most. Farmers could be cultivating a global harvest. Let me explain. For starters, India's farmers are clearly the biggest winners of the free trade agreement. There will be an elimination of tariff, for example, on turmeric, on pepper, on cardamom, on mango pulp, pickles, and pulses. Over 95% of agricultural and processed food tariff lines will attract zero duties on entry into force. This is huge for Indian farmers looking to get into the United Kingdom. This will include fruit, vegetables, cereals, fruit pulp, as I mentioned, and processed food as well. So what is the bottom line? Why are we talking about this? Because this massively reduced landed costs, which will now happen in the United Kingdom, will result in increased competitiveness of Indian products in the UK markets. Now, as significantly, Indian farmers, who are often vulnerable, will remain protected and will not face an onslaught of British dairy imports. Let me explain. Most of India's sensitive agricultural sectors will remain protected. There will be no tariff concessions on dairy products, apples and oats, and edible oils. So edible oils, apples, dairy products from the United Kingdom will not be able to come in
without substantive tariffs that dissuades them from coming into our market. The overall goal is duty-free access to increase agricultural exports from India to the United Kingdom over 20% in the next 3 years. Now, that's a big ambition, big task, but it seems that this agreement may be headed there. This contributes to India's goal of, as I mentioned, $100 billion agri-exports by 2030. Now, market access increases for emerging products as well, such as jackfruit, millets, and organic herbs. Will these actually flood the British market? Will Indian farmers gain substantially? My colleague Radhika Iyer, Chief Correspondent of NDTV in London, joins us. Radhika, a lot of action happening around you. What's next as far as the Prime Minister is concerned? All right, apologies over there. We'll come back to Radhika in a moment. The Prime Minister, I have a rough idea of what's going to be taking place. He's going to be initialing the free trade agreement. There will be an important discussion which takes place between the two leaders and press statements as well. Radhika Iyer, let me try and get back to you. Radhika, can you hear me firstly?
Yes, I can. Sorry about that. Terrible weather here as well.
Not a problem. Tell me, what is immediately on the cards in the next couple of hours?
A cup of tea and some signatures on the dotted line, because after almost 3.5 years of hard negotiations, both Sir Keir Starmer and Indian Prime Minister Mr. Modi are likely to be signing that deal. And there are going to be press announcements about 12 minutes from now here in the United Kingdom. This is a venue of the official workplace of Sir Keir Starmer, just outside of London, which is where this official meeting is taking place. But that is not the end of the meeting. That is a press announcement which we're expecting, following which another 120 minutes of meeting is due between the two prime ministers over a range of subjects, much of it around the free trade agreement, which many here are terming as comprehensive, cleverly crafted, and one which, of course, painstakingly has been hard fought for by both sides, particularly from UK negotiating team. I've heard from sources that India, during all rounds of negotiation, was very keen to get on with business and just talk straight business other than any soft conversation, especially during the negotiations. Some of the anecdotes are very interesting, Vishnu. One such is that when Britain's contingency was in India, in New Delhi, there were instances where they thought that this could go over the line. And at some points during the negotiation, several people on both sides did think that this is never going to happen. So this is a deal which was seen with a lot of criticism. This was a deal which was seen as if it was nearly impossible